Chapter 3167. Did you say you gave up all your wealth? That's just compensation for the loss of the sacred medicine. I haven't settled the score with you for deceiving me and toying with my feelings. Besides, weren't you the one who planted the love goo to get the sacred medicine? You don't like other people and can stay in the village with me for the rest of your life. The love goo will be beneficial to your body. Xiaogua, Shijing, Xie Qingxue also came to find me and wanted me to help you solve the problem of the love goo. I told her it's the same. Once the love goo is planted, there's no way to cure it. If you don't want to be in pain and not like other people, the love goo won't affect you. Shijing returned in disappointment and found that Xie Qingxue had left. He frantically went to find Xie Qingxue, but just as he found her, the love goo acted up again. Xie Qingxue wanted to leave, but Shijing's situation made her very worried. The Shi couple also found out from Zhu Jing that Shijing's illness was caused by the love goo. Hence, Tanggua was once again found by the Shi couple. The Shi couple threatened and warned Tanggua to get rid of the love goo in Shijing's body. But Tanggua didn't fall for it. She directly released a dense swarm of goo worms, scaring the couple away. Tanggua didn't help, so the Shi couple, Shijing and Xie Qingxue were in despair. Because of the love goo, their relationship was temporarily eased. Tanggua didn't listen to reason and they couldn't do anything. There was also Kong Qi protecting Tanggua. Xie Qingxue was starting to feel despair. Especially Shijing. He wasn't willing to let go of her. She was also worried and turned to leave. Just as they were in despair, a group of mysterious people found Xie Qingxue. Not long later, Xie Qingxue appeared in front of Tanggua again. There were many people besides Xie Qingxue, including an unfathomable old man. This group of people seemed to be here to support Xie Qingxue. Seeing this group of people, Tanggua was a little happy. After waiting for so long, this group of people finally appeared. This old man was not a so-called cultivator. There were no cultivators in this world. However, there were martial arts experts in this world. Yes, martial arts experts who could leap onto roofs and vault over walls, and who could cultivate inner strength. As for Xie Qingxue's identity, she was the granddaughter of the head of a secluded martial arts sect. Xie Qingxue's father was the bloodline left behind by this sect leader when he was training in Su World. Because of a great battle, the descendants of the head of this Wulin sect were all killed. Finally, he remembered that when he was young, he had met a woman in the mortal world. Therefore, they sent people out to look for him. This sect also had a large company in the secular world. However, this sect leader had always been focused on practicing martial arts. Outside matters were all managed by other people in the sect. After finding Xie Qingxue and knowing about the difficulties she was facing, the sect leader directly arranged for the strongest expert of the sect, which was the old man, to bring people to support Xie Qingxue. Knowing that Tanggua was a member of the Holy Gu tribe, they were not afraid at all. The people of the Holy Gu clan only knew how to play with Gu. They were not good at fighting. Especially the Holy Gu clan. In the eyes of the entire martial arts world, they had long declined. You are the Holy Gu clan saintess, right? The old man spoke directly. I came this time for the love Gu in our brother-in-law's body. Tanggua smiled as she looked at the old man and the group of people who were standing neatly. Peek. Chapter 3168. Who are you? Tanggua asked. She didn't look like an old man at all. The old man snorted. I'm the first elder of the Empyrean Terminus sect. As the saintess of the Holy Gu tribe, you should know about the Empyrean Terminus sect, right? Both Tanggua and the host knew about the Empyrean Terminus sect. In the entire martial arts world, the Empyrean Terminus sect was indeed invincible and very powerful. Whether it was their martial arts or their businesses in the secular world, they couldn't be easily shaken. Of course, the Empyrean Terminist sect's powerful martial arts were more of a threat to the Holy Gu tribe. If the Empyrean Terminist sect really wanted to make things difficult for the Holy Gu tribe and sent people to exterminate them, the Holy Gu tribe, who were proficient in Gu arts but lacked martial arts, wouldn't be able to resist for long. In the plot, the host was originally unwilling to help Shi Jing resolve the matter of the Love Gu because the Empyrean Terminist sect supported Xie Qingxue and sent people to attack the Holy Gu tribe. The Holy Gu tribe suffered many casualties. In the end, the host gave up resisting and lured the male Gu into her body. As a result, the Empyrean Terminist sect finally gave up on exterminating the Holy Gu tribe. But after that, the Holy Gu tribe suffered a great loss and there was basically no possibility of recovery. Recalling these memories, Tang Guo looked at the first elder of the Empyrean Terminist sect with an unfriendly gaze. Some time ago, she had brought everyone from the Holy Gu tribe to the villa and arranged for them to study. Facing the blueprint that Tang Guo had drawn for them, everyone was full of enthusiasm. The main reason was that after Shi Jing's incident, they thought that Tang Guo needed to develop the Holy Gu tribe to heal. What Tang Guo did was for the good of the Holy Gu tribe, so they naturally cooperated. What they didn't know was that Tang Guo had secretly returned to the Holy Gu tribe. As long as someone dared to enter the Holy Gu tribe, no matter how strong they were, they would have to bear the consequences. It had been a long time since the Holy Gu tribe had someone who could summon 10,000 Gu. This time, she was going to summon 10,000 Gu together and let this group of unreasonable people see what it meant to be unreasonable. So it's the first elder of the Empyrean Terminist sect. May I know why you're here today? Little girl, you can't force matters of the heart. Hurry up and remove the Love Gu from Shi Jing's body. Otherwise, if the sect master gets angry, he might not be too friendly to your Holy Gu tribe. Tang Guo didn't care about this threat at all. Great elder, you sure talk big. Shi Jing did indeed have a Love Gu planted in him, but I didn't force him to do it, and I didn't break them up. On the contrary, it was he who deceived me and swindled the only saintly medicine away from me. After knowing the truth, I didn't have any intention of keeping him. Besides, the things that have been used by others are already dirty. As the Holy Gu race's saintess, I'm not a trash collector. I don't care about those things. That's right. Who cares if you're the grand elder of some sect? Shi Jing clearly deceived the holy maiden's feelings, swindled her out of the sacred medicine, and planted the Love Gu in her. However, that was during their marriage. This is the rule of our Holy Gu tribe. If he is unwilling, how can we force him? Our Holy Venomous Gu clan values mutual affection. On the other hand, it's your Empyrean Terminist sect who came to accuse the saintess without asking clearly. We won't let this go. Saintess, think carefully. The Holy Gu tribe has no chance of winning against the Empyrean Terminist sect. The old man was getting impatient. I'll give you a definite answer today. If you still don't agree, don't blame me for being impolite. Besides, the sect master's temper isn't as good as you think. Apex. Chapter 3169. Miss Qing Shui is the sect master's only granddaughter. You should know how important she is. Before Tang Guo could speak again, Shi Jing and Chu Lihui rushed over. Not only did they come in, but they also brought many people with them. In an instant, they surrounded Tang Guo and protected her tightly. Kong Qi wasn't afraid even in the face of a hermit expert. He sized up the old man and said, "Old man, Xiao Guo has no obligation to help Shi Jing solve the Love Gu problem. You can go back now. Shi Jing only has himself to blame for what he has today. You can't blame Xiao Guo. If you want to talk about innocence, the most innocent person is still Xiao Guo. Where did this wild brat come from? Don't meddle in my Empyrean Terminus sect's matters." The old man was furious and glared at Tang Guo. Saintess, are you really not going to consider it? No, I won't help Shi Jing solve the love goo. You are familiar with my holy goo tribe and should know that there's no way to completely solve it once it's planted. The old man narrowed his eyes. Although there's no way to completely solve it, I've heard that the love goo can be drawn out. As long as you draw it out, my Empyrean Terminus sect won't pursue this matter. Tang Guo laughed. Great Elder has done his homework well. But he also knows that after drawing it out, he has to put it back into the host body. Otherwise, the love goo can't be drawn out. The second host body will suffer more pain. Why should I bear such pain to help Shi Jing? I'm the one who was deceived by him. I don't care. In short, if you don't solve Shi Jing's love goo, my Empyrean Terminus sect won't let your holy goo tribe off. Tang Guo waved her hand indifferently. Then please. In the end, the old man left angrily with Xie Qingxue. He even left some harsh words for Tang Guo to wait. Xiao Guo, is there really no problem? Kong Qi asked worriedly. Do you need me to arrange for people to protect the holy goo tribe? No, Brother Kong Qi, the Empyrean Terminus sect is a martial arts family. Unless it's a very powerful firearm, ordinary people aren't their match. You don't have to worry. I've already brought the Holy Goo clan to the villa complex. I've also made other arrangements for the Holy Goo clan. Don't worry, I'll make them suffer. Miao Xiao was originally worried, but when she saw Tang Guo's confidence, she was puzzled. Xiao Guo, do you have any plans? Miao Xiao felt that the growth rate of this holy maiden seemed to be beyond everyone's expectations. Silently, he had changed the Holy Goo race. A few years ago, he wouldn't have believed that the people of the Holy Goo tribe could carry briefcases to work in the company and speak English. Even so, they did not let go of their old profession. When they returned home after work, they would diligently practice their Goo techniques. The villa that Tang Guo bought had a very good environment and was very suitable for raising venomous insects. She had already bought that area, so she wasn't afraid of disturbing other people. It could be said that the villa had become the Holy Goo tribe's second stronghold. Clan leader, have you seen the summoning of 10,000 venomous insects in your life? Tang Guo said to Miao Xiao with a smile. Miao Xiao, who was still puzzled, looked at her in shock. Xiao Guo, what did you say? Summoning 10,000 venomous insects? You can already summon 10,000 venomous insects? He knew that Tang Guo's Goo techniques had been improving and that she must have raised many types of venomous insects. However, he had never thought of summoning 10,000 venomous insects. Even during the most prosperous era of the Holy Goo tribe, not every holy maiden could summon 10,000 venomous insects. The Apex. Chapter 3170. 10,000 goo was not just 10,000 goo, but 10,000 types of goo could be summoned at the same time. As for the number, it would depend on the person's strength. Tang Guo's words all these years had never gone unfulfilled, she had never joked. Miao Xiao was so excited that he almost fainted. Summoning 10,000 goo, 10,000 types of goo. How much effort would it take to raise 10,000 types of goo? A goo master who could summon 10,000 goo, even if their strength was slightly weaker, wouldn't be afraid of Heavenly Peak sect. On the contrary, Heavenly Peak sect's martial arts experts would look down on them, and if they were careless, they would suffer a huge loss. Brother Kong Qi, Li Hui, Heavenly Peak sect might come to our village and cause trouble. I have to go back and take a look. Although there is no one there, I don't want to see the place I grew up in get destroyed. Kong Qi had almost no hesitation. I'll go with you. I have many bodyguards with good skills. Although they can't deal with martial arts experts, running errands is no problem. Tang Guo wasn't afraid of Heavenly Peak sect finding trouble. Kong Qi believed she had a way to deal with them. How could he be at ease letting her go back alone? Can you deal with those people? Kong Chi asked. Tang Gua nodded. I can, my gu techniques have already reached great success. Miao Xiao, who had already calmed down, almost fainted from excitement when he heard this. Great success, their saintess wasn't even 20 years old, how could her gu techniques have reached great success? How heaven-defying was this talent? Now, not to mention Heavenly Peak sect, even if the entire martial arts world came looking for trouble, they wouldn't be able to do anything to their holy gu tribe. Miao Xiao almost laughed out loud. Even if he were to die right now, he would have no regrets. With the saintess' existence, the holy gu tribe would only become more prosperous. After dealing with them, are you going to kill them or let them go? Kong Chi believed that Tang Guo would teach the Empyrean Terminus sect a lesson before letting them go. From what he knew, she wouldn't kill them. At most, she would cripple their martial arts system. This still isn't considered killing them. Man, aren't your filters a bit too thick? To a martial artist, losing their martial arts, isn't that the same as taking their life? Isn't it illegal to kill people in this era? Tang Guo looked confused. Besides, I'm not that cruel to kill anyone who offends me. It's a little bloody. System, ha ha ha. Although he wouldn't be killed, the result would definitely not be good. It was more like a life worse than death. Kong Chi smiled. They came looking for trouble. If we let them off so easily, it would be too easy on them. The system understood the meaning behind his words. Could it be that this fellow was up to no good? What do you suggest, Brother Kong Chi? Didn't you say that we can't kill them casually in this era? But if we don't punish them, I think we're letting them off too easily. Why don't you arrest them and hand them over to the police? Since they openly cause trouble in your village, lock them up in the police station and educate them so that they can turn over a new leaf. Tang Guo was suddenly enlightened. Fortunately, Brother Kong Chi reminded me. Yes, although I can't do anything to them, they cause trouble. It's trespassing. It's best to send them to the police station. Initially, Tang Guo had intended to cripple their martial arts. She wanted the Heavenly Peak sect to understand that the Holy Gu tribe wasn't to be trifled with. But now that Kong Chi said this, she had another idea. Peak. Chapter 3171. The Empyrean Terminus sect also had a company in the secular world. Weren't they famous in the martial arts world? Then let's make them more famous. With Kong Chi's help, the Empyrean Terminus sect's connections in the secular world might not be so useful. She thought about which of the goo worms she raised would be more suitable for the Empyrean Terminus sect. After making the decision, Tang Guo, Kong Chi, and a group of clansmen prepared to return to the village and wait for the Empyrean Terminus sect to cause trouble. After they left, the more Chu Lihue thought about it, the more she felt that something was amiss. This time, Tang Guo said that she wouldn't be bringing her along. Her cousin also said that since everyone had left, no one would be looking after the company. He asked her to help look after the company in case there was no one to help deal with any urgent matters. After all, the people of the Holy Gu tribe had just joined the company and couldn't resolve everything so quickly. There were many things that they didn't understand. Some things, even a professional manager couldn't make a decision. The main thing was that he was a little worried that no one would be the backbone of the Empyrean Terminus sect's secular world company. Chu Lihue felt that something was wrong. Why was her cousin so enthusiastic? She remembered that recently, her cousin had begun to look for Tang Guo alone. Regarding Tang Guo's matters, he had arranged everything properly and didn't want to make any mistakes. Recalling her cousin's previous eagerness, she couldn't help but think of some of her suitors. Although the things they did were different, they were similar. So, her cousin had taken a liking to Xiao Guo. After figuring it out, Chu Lihue's face fell. She also thought of whether her despicable cousin had taken a liking to Xiao Guo from the start. But it wasn't easy to do it in the past, so he could only use her as an excuse to help Tang Guo. Now that Tang Guo was single, she naturally didn't need her as a little cousin. Kong Qi, you're despicable. Kong Qi didn't know that Chu Lihui had scolded him hundreds of times and had already returned to the village with Tang Guo. Miao Xiao also felt it. He didn't believe that Kong Qi's eagerness wasn't because of Tang Guo. As expected, the saintess was so outstanding. How could she not be liked? He found Kong Qi much more pleasing to the eye than Shi Jing. Although Shi Jing was also attentive, he always felt that it was a bit unreal. Kong Qi was different. He was considerate of Tang Guo in all aspects. Outsiders could feel his attentiveness and patience. Tang Guo and the others went straight back to the village. Not only did they go back, but they also asked people to install cameras in the village. Why did they install cameras? Of course, it was to capture evidence of those people causing trouble in the village so that they could be put in jail. Then, she waited for the Empyrean Terminus sect to find her. The Empyrean Terminus sect originally wanted to wait for Tang Guo to go back on her words, but in the end, they discovered that there was no movement from her at all. They even heard that she had directly returned to the village. A few days later, the Empyrean Terminus sect master issued an order. He was afraid that the Grand Elder would lead the disciples to cause trouble for the Holy Gu tribe. After hearing the news, Tang Guo took her men to the cottage on the mountain. The people of the Empyrean Terminus sect discovered that this place was empty. There was no one there at all. They were very angry and thought that Tang Guo might have come back to take away their clansmen. Great Elder, what should we do? Everyone here seems to have escaped. Despicable. They sure ran fast. The old man was very angry. Destroy this place for me. The monk can run away, but the temple can't. Since the monk doesn't want the temple, then we'll do a good deed and help them destroy the temple. Inform everyone to find the whereabouts of the Holy Gu tribe. After finding them, don't be polite and kill them directly. Peek. Chapter 3172. The people of the Empyrean Terminus sect didn't care about whether they could kill people as they wished in this era. Their sects often fought with each other, and outsiders couldn't interfere at all. Even if they cleaned up after exterminating the sect, no one would find out. Dear host, they are already smashing the things in the village. Yes, let them do it. The houses in the village are indeed rather old, and those old things should be replaced. If they aren't smashing, I'm a little reluctant to replace them. Now that someone is willing to pay to rebuild the village, I'm very happy. After Great Elder and the rest smashed the entire village, Tang Guo finally came down from the mountain with her people. When Great Elder saw Tang Guo, he sneered, "Saintess, you came at the right time. I thought you were afraid and ran away. You came here to destroy the village, and you want to leave just like that." Basically, everything was smashed. Tang Guo asked the system to check the cameras. The cameras were already out of power and couldn't be used. Then, it should be time for her to perform. Great Elder saw Tang Guo's indifferent look and suddenly felt that something was wrong. People who practice martial arts had especially sharp eyes and ears. When he heard strange sounds coming from the surroundings, he felt a little uneasy. By the time he realized that something was wrong, it was already too late. The black mass was like water soaking in. The things that were constantly covering in front of them were all worms. They were already surrounded by a dense mass of worms. Needless to say, these were all goo worms. Great Elder's scalp went numb. He wanted to jump up and run away, but suddenly, he realized that all he could see were goo worms. These goo worms were slowly shrinking in size and surrounding them. Not only were there goo worms that could crawl, but there were also goo worms that could fly with wings. This was the scene of 10,000 goo worms. The most excited people were Miao Xiao, the patriarch, and a few members of the Holy Goo tribe. 10,000 goo worms. They didn't expect to see such a scene in their lifetime. No matter how Great Elder and the rest ran or resisted, they couldn't escape the encirclement of the goo worms. Soon, they were all surrounded by the goo worms. It wasn't until Tanguo gave the order for the goo worms to retreat that the 10,000 goo worms slowly dissipated. During this period of time, there were goo worms killed by First Elder and the others. However, even Tanguo herself did not know how many of these things she had raised. In particular, some of the venomous insects were specifically targeted at martial artists, and they had no way to resist. Looking at the First Elder and the others lying on the ground gasping for breath after the goo worms were pushed away, it was clear how powerless they were. Brother Kong Chi, they are no longer able to use their martial arts. They have all been poisoned by my goo. This goo specialized in devouring inner strength and was stored in their dantian. Once they use their internal energy, their entire body will go soft and they won't be able to use it. Why would martial artists want to suppress the Holy Goo tribe? It was because the Holy Goo tribe had all kinds of strange goo worms that could suppress them. Suppression was only because they were afraid. Then leave the rest to me. Trespassing on private property and wantonly destroying private property is enough for them to spend years in jail. Kong Chi smiled as he commanded his men to tie up the First Elder and the others. Others went to pick up the memory card and the camera. There was evidence of this group of people doing bad things. I still have to make a trip to the Empyrean Terminus sect. Tanguo indicated her next destination. Vertex. Chapter 3173. Now that the Empyrean Terminus sect had come to provoke them, Tanguo definitely wanted to get back at them. With Tanguo's previous performance, Miao Xiao didn't try to persuade her at all. Instead, he agreed. For so many years, the martial artists had been suppressing the Holy Goo tribe. Otherwise, the Holy Goo tribe wouldn't have fallen to this state. When they needed any life-saving medicine, they would run to the Holy Goo tribe. They were afraid that the Holy Goo tribe would raise some strange goo worms and desperately suppress them again. In the past, they didn't have the strength. Now that the Saintess could summon 10,000 goo, the entire martial arts world was no longer afraid of them. Naturally, they had to go and hold their heads high. Of course, Kong Chi followed them. When they arrived outside the Empyrean Terminus sect, Tanguo held a loudspeaker and shouted, "People of the Empyrean Terminus sect, come out. Tanguo of the Holy Goo tribe is here to return your gift." When Tanguo brought people to the Empyrean Terminus sect, they caused a huge commotion. Whenever people from the martial arts world saw them, she would talk about her grudges with the Empyrean Terminus sect. Mina's activities at the outermost area of the Empyrean Terminus sect were indeed very frequent. They heard that the sect master had found a new bloodline. After hearing Tanguo's words, they suddenly realized. However, when they saw Tanguo bringing these people to the Empyrean Terminus sect, they thought she was courting death. When they heard the latest news, Tanguo summoned 10,000 goo and surrounded the Empyrean Terminus sect so tightly that not even a drop of water could trickle through. Those goo worms constantly gnawed at the Empyrean Terminus sect's buildings. Some goo worms even directly burrowed into the bodies of the Empyrean Terminus sect's disciples. They were the kind of goo worms that made people unable to use their internal strength. Even when the Empyrean Terminus sect master finally came out, he was beaten back by Tanguo. They heard that the Saintess of the Holy Goo tribe was only 20 years old, but she could already summon 10,000 goo worms and had great success in her goo techniques. They heard that not only was the Saintess of the Holy Goo tribe unparalleled in her goo techniques, but her martial arts and internal strength were also very strong. Even the Empyrean Terminus sect master was beaten back by her palm. Sect master should have finished listening to the recording I played just now. Kong Chi smiled as he looked at the white-haired old man who was sitting on the ground and leaning against the wall. Actually, this is a direct recording, but I think it's enough to listen to the recording. If you want to watch the recording. After Tangguo defeated the sect master of the Empyrean Terminus sect and released insects to destroy the other party's building, Kong Chi stood up and played the audio recorded by Chu Lihui. Right, sect. Right. The sect master of the Empyrean Terminus sect didn't say anything, but he wasn't as arrogant as before. He had cultivated his inner strength for many years, but he was defeated by a little girl in her 20s. This was something that he could not accept. Actually, it didn't matter whether he listened to this recording or not. If they were defeated, the Empyrean Terminus sect could only admit defeat. They did not have the capital to do anything to the Holy Gu tribe. However, after listening to the recording, he became even angrier. It turned out that Shi Jing and Xie Qingxue were really unreasonable. 2. S's. His subordinates were to blame as well. Their questions were unclear, causing him to lose face. Now, the entire Wulin probably knew about his shameful matter. If there's no problem, Sect Master will have to compensate the Holy Gu tribe for the destruction of the entire village. The houses there were destroyed by your Empyrean Terminus sect's people. It's completely uninhabitable. Tang Guo reminded him. Chapter 3174. Sect Master shouldn't be lacking in this. As for those who tried to cause trouble and sow discord between our Holy Gu tribe and the Empyrean Terminus sect, I've already captured them and sent them to the police station. As for the compensation, I'll arrange for someone to come and explain it to you another day. The Empyrean Terminus sect had already suffered a crushing defeat, so the limitless sect master didn't plan on struggling anymore. They could only blame themselves for being careless and allowing the Holy Gu tribe to grow to this extent. The current situation was beyond their control. The Holy Gu tribe's saintess, who could summon 10,000 Gu, was someone that even the entire Wulin couldn't resist. No one could predict when those strange worms would burrow into their bodies through their skin and nest in their dantian. As for those disciples who aren't clear-headed, I hope saintess can let them off. Tang Guo smiled. I've already handed them over to the police. As long as they behave themselves, I believe they'll be out soon. Sect Master doesn't need to worry. Although the Empyrean Terminus Sect Master was furious, he didn't dare to ask any more questions. This was because he didn't know how many worms had burrowed into his dantian. Now, as long as he used his inner strength, his entire body would become incomparably solid. Tang Guo smiled. It wasn't just the worms in his dantian. This elder's blood was filled with her Gu worms. As long as the other party was a little agitated and used a little bit of martial arts or inner strength, it would be extremely painful. Saintess, can you remove the Gu worms in my body? The limitless sect master finally brought this topic up with a pleading look on his face. Tang Guo smiled faintly and pretended to be innocent. Sect master, what Gu worms are you talking about? Tell me, why would there be Gu worms in your body for no reason at all? While the Empyrean Terminus sect master was about to die from anger, Tang Guo and Kong Chi left with relaxed steps. As for the Gu worms that had been planted in the Empyrean Terminus sect master's body, she expressed that she didn't know what was going on. The Empyrean Terminus sect had already offended her, so she wouldn't help them see what kind of Gu worms it was. If there was anyone to blame it on these people for indiscriminately arranging for people to come to the Holy Gu tribe and start a massacre. In the storyline, the original owner didn't manage to stop the massacre in time. Many clansmen had died resisting the Empyrean sect's attack. Not long after, Patriarch Miao Shao informed Tang Guo that they had received the Empyrean Terminus sect's compensation. Tang Guo let Miao Xiao think about how to rebuild the village and continue to wander around the city. Miao Xiao saw that Tang Guo was either studying recipes for medicinal cuisine or concocting some nourishing pills all day long. This time, not only did the saintess have someone she liked, but the person she liked would definitely like her as well. Miao Xiao thought highly of Kong Qi and believed that something good would happen to the Holy Gu tribe soon. Xiao Gua, do you want to cultivate another pair of love gu? Now that your gu skills have reached great success, nurturing the love gu is an easy task. In just a few years, you will be able to nurture a perfect pair of love gu. Miao Xiao reminded appropriately. Once they were nurtured properly, they would be able to get married. When the time came for them to get married, the two of them would plant a seed. They wouldn't have to worry about Kong Qi accidentally dying because of his poor health. A saintess who had mastered the art of gu would definitely cultivate the most powerful love gu. It would prolong one's lifespan and benefit one's body. That's true. Tang Guo was still pondering over another matter. After the love gu was planted, should their lifespan be calculated according to Kong Qi's or hers? Peak. Chapter 3175. Actually, there's no point in thinking about this. Dear host, regardless of whether it's based on your lifespan or your cutie's lifespan, you're both willing. You can't live together, but you can die together. It's also a very romantic thing. If you tell your cutie about this, he'll be more than willing to accompany you. Even if he dies, he'll die with a smile. Who knows, he might even be happy in his heart. Tang Guo felt that it made sense. Then, when we get married, I'll ask him if he's willing. The system snorted. Was there a need to ask? Of course, he was willing. That fellow was planning how to take things a step further with the host. He was actively giving suggestions to the clan leader about planning the Holy Gu tribe's village. He even specially hired someone to help draw the blueprints. Cousin, you might have already lost a cousin. Chu Lihui walked in front of Kong Qi, seeing that he was looking at the blueprints of various villages. Her expression was indescribable. Cousin, did you hear that? You've already lost a gentle and cute cousin. Kong Qi finally raised his head and smiled. I don't have a gentle and cute cousin. Chu Lihui, fuck. This was a blow to her. When did you fall in love with Xiao Gua? Since you've taken a liking to her and haven't done anything for so long, if you don't bring her into your bowl and someone else snatches her away, where will you go to cry? When she found out that Kong Qi had feelings for Tang Guo, Chu Lihui was surprised at first. Then, she became happy. Because she quite liked Tang Guo. Especially now that her cousin's health was getting better and better, there was finally someone he liked. The whole family had the same attitude. They hoped that he could get her quickly and bring her home to marry her. I already have a plan. Kong Qi had a serious expression. Soon, she'll be mine. Chu Lihui couldn't help but roll her eyes. Wasn't he being too confident? What if Tang Guo wasn't willing? She would be slapped in the face then. However, after a while, when Chu Lihui found out that Kong Qi had brought Tang Guo home to meet his parents, she almost shouted out, fuck. She clearly graduated from a famous school. Why was it that when facing her cousin, she only said, fuck? Tang Guo and Kong Qi naturally got together. Because there was a precedent, the clansmen severely tested Kong Qi naturally. The final result was good. Kong Qi was not afraid of all the tests. His clansmen saw his sincerity and finally gave him their sincere blessings. On the day of their wedding, Tang Guo took out the love gu. Under Kong Qi's expectant gaze, the two of them planted the love gu. One day, Kong Qi suddenly asked Tang Guo something. Xiao Guo, you and Shi Jing have been implanted with a love gu before. I heard from the clan leader that even if it is a female gu, it will take a lot of effort to force it out of the body. I don't have the guts. Tang Guo blinked. At that time, Shi Jing was the only one who planted the love goo. I didn't do it for the time being. Kong Qi was puzzled. Why didn't you plant it in the beginning? Back then, I raised a lot of goo, I did not have time to plant love goo. Kong Qi didn't believe her nonsense. He originally thought that this young lady was innocent and straightforward, but in fact, she was no less evil than him. Seeing that Kong Qi didn't believe her, Tang Guo looked like she couldn't persuade him and said, "Brother Qi, actually, I didn't plant the love goo immediately because I had a bad dream the night before the wedding." Peak. Chapter 3176. What did you dream of? I dreamt that Shi Jing might be lying to me and might even betray me in the future. System, TSK, here we go again. You're really good at coaxing cute words. This man was really something. After listening to these words for so many years, wasn't he tired of it? Was it because of this dream that you didn't plant the love goo? Kong Qi asked. He felt that this was true. Yes, I planned to wait and see if it was the same as the dream. After all, even if it's easier to remove the female goo, it's still not good for the body. Brother Qi already knows what happened after that, so I didn't continue to plant the love goo. Kong Qi nodded and asked, then what about the female goo? It shouldn't be dead. Once the female goo died, the male goo wouldn't be able to live either. If the male goo died, Shi Jing would also die. He had always been paying attention to Shi Jing's situation. He was still being tortured by the love goo from time to time. Even without Kong Qi's interference, he wouldn't have the energy to make a comeback. Shi Jing's parents hated Xie Qingxue very much and didn't approve of this daughter-in-law. A few years had passed, but the two of them still hadn't married. Because of Xie Qingxue's matter, Emperor Terminus sect's Holy Mouth Gu clan Saintis, the sect master, and the other disciples couldn't use their internal strength. They were basically crippled. There was also a group of disciples who were locked up in the police station. The entire circle was in an uproar because of this. How could the Emperor Terminus sect master care about Xie Qingxue when he couldn't even protect himself? Kong Qi would occasionally ask his younger brother to cause trouble for the Emperor Terminus sect's company in the secular world. In any case, he wouldn't give them a good life. In a fit of anger, I planted the female goo in Shi Jing's dog. Tang Guo pursed her lips and said softly, after all, I can't kill people so easily, so I could only do this. Hearing this, Kong Qi almost burst out laughing. Alright, so it turned out that Shi Jing had planted the love goo in a dog. This dog couldn't control the emotions of the female goo. Shi Jing was tortured every day. He had never thought that the love goo's activation would be so unbearable. After a few years of continuous pain, he couldn't bear it anymore. Although he spent time with Xie Qingxue every day, he didn't get close to her. When Xie Qingxue cried beside him, he couldn't help but feel sorry for her. Seeing Shi Jing in such pain, Xie Qingxue went to Tang Guo again. Her attitude was much better than before. Miss Tang, please think of a way to help Jing. I really don't want to see him in pain. I don't dare to ask Miss Tang to sacrifice herself for others. I only hope that Miss Tang can give Jing a way out. Xie Qingxue finally lowered her head. This time, Tang Guo didn't directly say that she couldn't help. Instead, she said, although the love goo can't be eradicated, there is a way to solve it. I see that the two of you are still together after so many years. You really have no regrets. Alright, I'll give you a chance. There is a way to resolve Shi Jing's pain, so that the two of you can share this pain together. When the system heard this, it felt that something was wrong. There was a way. Why did he feel that it wasn't a good thing? Xie Qingxue took the method that Tang Guo told her. She went home to find Shi Jing and told him about it. The method that Tang Guo had told her was to use blood to attract the goo. As long as the male goo could be lured into her body, Shi Jing's pain would naturally be resolved. Peak. Chapter 3177. She even reminded them that each of them could suffer for a month or half a year. That way, they would be able to share the pain. It was only fair for everyone to have a taste of being eaten by the love goo. System, yes, yes, yes. Whatever the damn host says is right. After Kong Qi found out about this, he laughed at Tang Guo for being so good at tormenting people. He also happily said that his wife was so smart to have thought of such a good idea. System, jackals of the same tribe. After Xie Qingxue lured the goo worm into her body, she finally experienced the pain of being eaten by the goo worm. In just a month, she was almost tortured beyond recognition. Seeing this, Shi Jing hurriedly lured the goo worm back and continued to suffer the terrifying pain. This situation lasted for half a year. Fang Sifei stood at the side and couldn't bear to watch it anymore. Later, she inadvertently revealed this to Su Danhua. Su Danhua came to find Xie Qingxue. This month was the time when Xie Qingxue was suffering. He planned to use himself to help the two of them. As the two of them were moved, Su Danhua used blood to guide the goo worm. However, perhaps the goo worm didn't like Su Danhua's blood, but it stayed in Xie Qingxue's body and didn't come out. However, when Shi Jing tried, the goo worm immediately ran back into his body. It seems that I really can't help you. Su Danhua said regretfully. I really didn't expect you to be together like this. Since I can't help you, I should leave. Su Danhua said with a relieved expression, I believe that even if you are suffering the pain now, you must be very happy to be together. After all, it is worth it to be with the person you love, no matter how much you cry, no matter how painful it is. The pain of the body is far less than the pain of the heart. Shi Jing and Xie Qingxue wanted to refute. In fact, they already felt that the pain of the body was the real pain. Su Danhua left, leaving behind a dumbfounded Shi Jing and Xie Qingxue. Su Danhua's footsteps were very relaxed, as if he had really let go of something. From this day onwards, people related to Xie Qingxue couldn't contact Su Danhua. A long time later, they found out that Su Danhua had emigrated. Later, he found a new partner, got married, and had children. He lived a peaceful life. As for Shi Jing and Xie Qingxue, they still had to use their blood to guide the goo into their bodies every month and endure the pain of being bitten by the goo worms together. Fang Sifei saw that the two of them could still be together like this, and she was very touched by their love. Later on, she also married Zhu Jing. She thought that she and Zhu Jing would live a happy life together. She had never thought that after so many years, Zhu Jing would actually cheat outside. She threw a tantrum and cried, but she couldn't break up with him. Every day, she had to fight with all kinds of mistresses. The Shi couple tried to persuade Shi Jing to leave Xie Qingxue, but to no avail. In the end, they gave up. Their days were cold and cheerless. Shi Jing and Xie Qingxue each endured the pain once. They did not know how many years they had persevered for. Every month until that day, their hearts would tremble, and then they would become numb and calm. Unknowingly, the pain they felt from the love goo acting up had lessened. One day, Xie Qingxue suddenly said, "Ah Jing, you don't love me anymore, right?" Qingxue, Shi Jing looked at Xie Qingxue and asked, "You don't love me anymore, right?" Vertex. Chapter 3178. The two fell into silence for a long time and didn't continue this topic. From this day onwards, they didn't carry out the blood goo every month anymore. The love goo returned to Shi Jing's body. The two continued to live together, but there was no longer the burning passion between them. It was like a calm pool of stagnant water. Under Tangua's care, Kong Chi's body was slowly getting better. According to the rules, with the age she had lived in this world, plus the 20 years, she should be able to live until she was 40 years old. Maybe it was because her goo skills were perfected, and the two planted the love goo with great care. Through the love goo, the two had reached the level of sharing life. In this life, Kong Chi lived for 102 years with a body that everyone thought wasn't very good. Tangguo was a few years younger than him, but she also lived for more than 90 years. In the world of ordinary people, this age was already very long. Because of Tanggua's special care, when she left the world, Miao Shao was still alive and kicking. He sent Tangguo away with tears and snot. He also assured her that with the precious letters she left behind, he would definitely choose the most outstanding saintess. Anyway, he felt that he had lived for a long time. If this one didn't work, he would choose another. He would definitely be able to choose one that he was satisfied with. He was very patient. When Tangguo left the world, she also said goodbye to the people in the group. She said, "This world has ended. See you in the next world." After the people in the group knew, they all sighed. Only Shangguan Yungu looked at this message and was a little confused. He didn't understand what was going on. After everyone explained it to him, he was amazed. So there was such a magical thing in the world. Sure enough, the school bell marshal uncle was a very powerful person. She could actually go to various worlds. Shangguan Yungu, Master, when will little marshal uncle appear? Mo Yuntian, it shouldn't be long. The flow of time in your world seems to be slower. More than 70 years have passed in your marshal uncle's world, but less than 10 years have passed in your world. Don't worry, you will be able to see your sister soon. Don't worry, just wait. Shangguan Yungu was relieved. The people in the group were very concerned about Tanggua's whereabouts. Recently, he had been paying attention to this issue. He had only acknowledged Mo Yuntian as his master for a few years. The new emperor was basically able to control the court. He had done everything he could to help the new emperor. Then, all the power was transferred to the new emperor. On the other hand, he stayed in the palace all day to practice martial arts. The new emperor wanted to continue enslaving him, but he was not willing. He was someone who wanted to become an immortal. He couldn't let that little rascal ruin his immortal fate. Since you're already a member of the Marquis' estate and my official wife, then follow old madam and take care of the Marquis' estate. Tonight, I have to make things clear. You and I are only together on the orders of our parents and on the words of a matchmaker. You have already obtained the position of the Crown Prince's wife, so you don't have to think about anything else. The moment Tangguo woke up, she heard these heartless words. She could feel that something was covering her head. From what she had heard before, she guessed that this was another wedding night. Why did I get married so many times after transmigrating here? Well, if you get married in this world, it will be your second marriage. The system sighed helplessly. There's no other way. I have the script for the unlucky female supporting lead. The Peak. Chapter 3179. It's really tough on you. But don't worry, Big Cutie won't mind. He doesn't mind, but I do. When will I have an identity that allows me to have my first love and get married? The system comforted her. Maybe in the future. He wasn't sure. After all, it was the script of an unlucky female supporting character. Who knew what strange things would happen? Besides, even if she transmigrated, would Big Cutie and that guy still be considered her first love? He was already a wily old fox, yet he was being so particular. It's late, you should rest. The man turned around and left without hesitation. Miss, are you all right? Miss, how could the air treat you like this? I knew he was a devoted person, but I didn't expect him to be so heartless. You can go out, I want to rest. Tangua took off her veil. It was hard to tell if she was happy or sad. The maid standing at the side wanted to say something, but she was scared off by her gaze. Why was the young miss, who was usually as gentle as water, a little scary now? After all, being treated like this by her husband on her wedding night, no matter how good a person's temper was, she wouldn't be able to tolerate it. Miss, you should rest first. I'll wait outside. If you need anything, remember to call me. Tangua saw that the maid was sincere and should be loyal. She nodded gently to show that she understood. After the maid left, she laid on the bed and started to think. She had a feeling that the man just now should be the male lead. The original owner's story must be very melodramatic. System, Big Cutie's intuition must be right. He read the story just now and it was indeed melodramatic. Tangua's guess was right. The man who treated her coldly on their wedding night was indeed the male lead of this world, Duke Ho's heir, Do Changye. And she was actually considered as Do Changye's second wife. Because before this, Do Changye had a childhood sweetheart and they were in love with each other. This childhood sweetheart was the female lead of this world, and her name was Lu Junhua. But Lu Junhua and Do Changye did not receive any blessings. Neither the Duke Ho's family nor the Lu family agreed to their marriage. Because of the obstruction from both sides' families, the two of them naturally could not get married. The reason why the original owner of the body became Do Changye's stepwife was because Lu Junhua had died in an accident 2 years ago. With Lu Junhua's death, the people from the two families heaved a sigh of relief, thinking that the two of them would not be together anymore. To her surprise, Do Changye insisted on winning Lu Junhua's memorial tablet. Due to the fact that Do Changye had performed a meritorious deed, the emperor was grateful to him and even granted him a marriage. The two families could not stop it at all. To everyone's surprise, Do Changye's devotion was praised by all the talents in capital city. Some scholars even wrote poems about the love between Do Changye and Lu Junhua. 2 years later, Do Changye finally gave in to his family's urging and agreed to marry the original owner. Anyway, his first wife was already Lu Junhua's. If these people wanted to force him to marry her, then he would marry her. He would marry her and use her as a decoration to shut their mouths. If this stepwife was obedient, he would let her stay in the residence peacefully. But if she was not obedient, he would not be polite. In this era, a woman's marriage was mostly decided by her parents. The Peak. Chapter 3180. She might not have even seen her husband's face before she got married. The original owner of the body had only heard of Do Changye's reputation. She rarely left her room and only heard the rumors outside. She thought that Do Changye was a devoted man. She had never thought of replacing Lu Junhua in Do Changye's heart. Since she had been chosen and married, she naturally planned to take care of the family and take care of her husband. However, she did not expect that Do Changye would leave her behind coldly on the night of the wedding, causing her to become a joke in the mansion. The next day, everyone in the capital city knew that Do Changye was dissatisfied with his new wife and went to the study room. Hence, the original owner of the body became a joke in the capital city from that day onwards. The power of the mansion was in the hands of Madame Chin. Madame Ho had passed away early and Master Ho had been bedridden for more than 10 years because of his serious injuries from the war. Hence, there were not many people in the mansion. The masters of the mansion were Madame Chin, Master Ho, and Do Changye. For a large clan, this was a very small number of people. Now, there was the original owner of the body as his second wife. However, she was neglected by Do Changye on the first day of the wedding. Hence, the servants of the mansion did not trust her at all. Everyone was touched by Do Changye's feelings for his late wife, Lu Junhua. Hence, they did not take the original owner of the body seriously. Her husband neglected her and did not have the power to manage the mansion. Hence, she was not respected by the servants. Madame Chen thought that the original owner of the body was useless because she could not win Do Changye's heart. Hence, she did not like her very much. Of course, that was not the worst part. The worst part was that Lu Junhua, who was supposed to be dead, appeared a few years after the wedding. Do Changye, who had thought that he had given up, seemed to have come back to life and wished that he could hide her in a crack. Although Lu Junhua was still alive, she had lost her memory and did not know Do Changye at all. What was more ridiculous was that Lu Junhua was accidentally picked up by the emperor, Shengwan Qingchuan. Not only did he pick up Lu Junhua, he also picked up her son. Yes, when Lu Junhua disappeared, she was already pregnant with Do Changye's child. The emperor was attracted by Lu Junhua, a brave and courageous woman. He didn't mind that she had a son and directly brought her back to the capital. Besides, although he had heard of Lu Junhua's name before, he had never seen her before. How would he know about her relationship with Do Changye? After Lu Junhua was brought back, the emperor did not let her get involved in the palace because of her special status. He bought a house in the capital for Lu Junhua to live in. That was the reason why Do Changye had discovered it. Ever since Do Changye discovered that Lu Junhua had lost her memory, he would approach her every day in a bid to make her remember something. With such a huge commotion, the emperor naturally knew about it. Just like that, Do Changye told the emperor that the woman was his wife, Lu Junhua. However, the emperor was already caught up in it and was unwilling to let it go. For this reason, he even brought Lu Junhua into the palace and conferred her a title. Ever since then, Do Changye and the emperor had been fighting over Lu Junhua. Because the House of Marquis had made great contributions, the emperor personally decreed that it would be hereditary for 3 generations, and also bestowed the House of Marquis with the golden medallion of exemption from death. Shengwan Qingchuan felt that Do Changye was a wise and meritorious official. Hence, he definitely wouldn't create trouble for the duke's mansion because of a woman. She thought that by hiding the woman in the palace, Do Changye would forget about her after a while. Peak. Chapter 3181. However, Do Changye did not give up. He even colluded with a certain little prince to overthrow the emperor because of the emperor's tyranny. After a battle, Do Changye succeeded and Shengwan Qingchuan was deposed. After the new emperor boarded the plane, the first thing he did was to send Lu Junhua to the Ho mansion. At this point in time, Lu Junhua already had some memories. However, she did not remember everything. She was dissatisfied with Do Changye's actions. Moreover, Do Changye already had a wife and was unwilling to marry into the Ho mansion. In the end, Do Changye sent the original owner of the body to the temple to meditate. Of course, he told the public that the original owner of the body was sick and had gone to the temple to pray for blessings. He had already planned to wait for the original owner of the body to fall sick so that she would pass away. After the original owner of the body was sent to the temple to meditate, Do Changye did all sorts of things to try and make Lu Junhua remember. Do Changye's efforts were not in vain. Although she did not remember everything, she was still touched by what Do Changye had done. Later on, after experiencing various setbacks, Lu Junhua gradually remembered what had happened. After knowing that the original owner of the body was only a stepwife arranged by her family and that Do Changye had nothing to do with her, Lu Junhua felt relieved and the two of them finally got married. As for the original owner of the body in the temple on the mountain, they did not mention anything about it. Do Changye had never thought about whether she was doing well or not. A few years later, the temple was robbed. The original owner of the body was a young and beautiful girl. In order not to be humiliated by the robbers, she directly pulled out the only hairpin on her head and stabbed it into her throat. The robbers flew into a rage out of humiliation. They robbed the temple, killed everyone inside, and set it on fire. Just like that, the life of the original owner of the body came to an end. Lu Junhua felt guilty about it and requested Do Changye to send someone to investigate the matter and exterminate the bandits. Do Changye agreed and indeed exterminated the bandits. Everyone said that although Do Changye only loved Lu Junhua, he was very kind to the original owner of the body. In order to exterminate the bandits, he put in a lot of effort. Everyone also said that Lu Junhua was a tolerant woman. She even exterminated the bandits together with Do Changye. It was no wonder that the two of them were deeply in love. After reading all the memories, Tang Guo opened her eyes. She stared at the candles that were about to burn out and spaced out for a while. So, what did she do wrong? It's all Dreg's fault. The original owner didn't do anything. The system said angrily, "Host, go ahead and torture him. Do Changye is a heartless dog." Of course, he had to torture them. But now, Tang Guo wanted to figure out another thing. That was, in the storyline, there was an unlucky guy called Shengguan Yungu. Was he the one in her group? When she first saw this name, she was stunned for a moment. However, in the storyline, Shengguan Yungu was not as lucky as he was in the group. It was said that he had escaped from an assassination attempt and brought important items back to the capital. However, because his wounds had not been treated for a long time, all of his martial arts had been crippled. He was basically no different from a cripple. After assisting the new emperor for a few years, he had no choice but to recuperate in the prince's mansion because he was not feeling well. Do Changye teamed up with one of the young princes to force the emperor to abdicate because he had expected that sage King Duan would intervene. Therefore, he had arranged everything in advance, not giving him a chance to react at all. Later on, Do Changye was afraid that Shengguan Yungu would do something bad, so he ruthlessly ordered someone to poison him. Vertex. Chapter 3182. A few months later, Shengguan Yungu couldn't hold on any longer and directly died. That was why he was truly an unlucky person. If it wasn't for this, Shengguan Qingchuan wouldn't have been forced to abdicate. Tang Guo's consciousness sank into the group, intending to ask if the situation was the same as what she thought. If it was really the same, it would be interesting. School bell, Yungu, are you there? Mo Yuntian, sister, are you in a new world? Did you just arrive? What's the new world like? What's the story that makes people angry? Ziyun, I wanted to see who was here, but I didn't expect to meet the sister. Qi Xiao just went into seclusion. If he knew the sister was here, he would definitely regret it. Margaret, school bell, I've been waiting for you for a long time. You finally appeared. So, are you in the magic world now? The flowers here have withered time and time again. School bell, Margaret, unfortunately, it's still not the magic world this time. Margaret, you guys go ahead. I want to be alone. Aw. I'd better go and see the new apprentices and see how they are doing. If they don't meet my requirements, I must throw them into the forest for a month and let them enjoy the feeling of being surrounded by magical beasts, insects, and venom. They are really too stupid. They can't see the potential of being protagonists. They weren't so stupid before I took them in. I feel like I've been cheated. Yes, it must be their disguise that deceived me. Damn it, let them stay in the forest for 2 months. Mo Yuntian, being your apprentice is really bad luck for 8 lifetimes. Ziyun, let's have a moment of silence. Mo Yuntian, oh, sister, you were looking for that boy Yungu. What's the matter? School bell, nothing big. I just want to ask him about some things. Margaret, why do I have a bad feeling about this? Ziyun, why are you back? Didn't you go to think about Jingjing? Margaret, there's no conflict between wanting to be quiet and observing the group's movements. After waiting for a while, Shangguan Yungu did not appear. Tang Guo suddenly remembered that it was night time. If Shangguan Yungu was really in the same world as her, he should be sleeping now. After thinking it through, she chatted with the people in the group for a while before exiting. After taking off her cumbersome clothes, Tang Guo asked Li Qi, the head maidservant outside, to fetch her some water. After washing her face and rinsing her mouth, she rested. Although she was not mentally tired, her body had been tormented for an entire day because of her marriage. She had been in her room all this time and lacked exercise. In fact, she was a little sore and needed a good rest. Tomorrow morning, Shangguan Yungu should be able to come online. At that time, he would know the specific situation. However, early the next morning, Tang Guo was woken up by her maid, Li Qi. She said that she was going to pay her respects to the old madam. Li Qi's complexion wasn't good, and her eyes were red. She looked at Tang Guo, wanting to say something, but hesitated. What happened? Young miss, the servants in the Marquis's residence are all talking about how you were neglected by the heir. The outside world should be talking about it now. Li Qi couldn't help but cry. Her young miss had always been a gentle and kind person. She really didn't know who she had offended. If the heir wasn't satisfied with the marriage, he shouldn't have agreed to it. In the end, he married her and neglected her on the wedding night. He didn't give her any face at all. Peak. Chapter 3183. If they like to spread rumors, so be it, Tang Guo said nonchalantly, which made Li Qi feel even sadder. It's early in the morning. Don't cry. If you continue crying, I'll chase you out. According to her memories, Li Qi was a loyal maid. Therefore, Tang Guo's attitude towards her was quite good. After hearing Tang Guo's words, Li Qi had no choice but to hold back her tears. However, she was still upset. Miss didn't do anything wrong, so why did God treat her like this? After washing up and dressing up, Tang Guo went to greet Madame Lai with Li Qi's help. However, Do Changye didn't come along. She didn't know if he had gone out or gone to old Madame Lai's place. When she arrived at old Madame Lai's place, Tang Guo sensed that someone was staring at her. She scanned the room and didn't see Do Changye. She reckoned that he had gone out early in the morning, just like what she had described. He didn't show her any respect on the night of their wedding and didn't accompany Tang Guo to greet him on the morning of the second day of their wedding. Firstly, he wanted to warn Tang Guo not to let her imagination run wild. He had always treated her this way and it was impossible for him to change. Secondly, he was obviously putting on a show for old Madame Lai. He wanted to tell old Madame Qin that this was the consequence of forcing him to marry her. Even if he married her, it would be of no use. He would only treat this woman, who had taken up his place as a stepwife, as a decoration. Old Madame Lai's face was obviously sullen, but she didn't reprimand Do Changye directly. Instead, she glared at Tang Guo in an unfriendly manner. She didn't even drink the tea and instead put it down forcefully. Where's Changye? Why didn't he come to greet you on the first day of your wedding? Old Madame Lai was obviously blaming Tang Guo for not letting Do Changye stay. Tang Guo looked at old Madame Lai, who was sitting there in displeasure, and said, His Highness went out last night. I don't know where he went. You're the wife of His Highness. Aren't you going to ask about his whereabouts? I thought you were a good person, but I didn't expect you to be so useless. Tang Guo replied with a faint smile. Last night, young Master Shitzi told me that he doesn't like me. He married me just to deal with old madam. He told me not to think too much and to stay in the room obediently and not to cause trouble for him. It's only my first day here. I only saw the heir once last night, so how would I know where he went? Old madam, it's different. You're the person closest to young Master Shitzi. Did he not tell you where he went? After reading the story, Tang Guo didn't intend to let herself be wronged from the very beginning. She didn't want to be wronged here. She didn't want to waste her energy on a person like Do Changye because it was simply a waste of energy. The main thing was that her family background was really not bad. At least, it was on the same level as the Marquis's household. There was no need for her to be a concubine in front of the old madam. The original owner of the body was submissive only because she had been tortured by this era. She thought that it was her fault if her husband wasn't satisfied with her. Besides, she was gentle and had never experienced such a situation before. When she first arrived at the Marquis's household, she had no one to support her and was even neglected. She was actually very flustered. However, it was different for her. This marriage was planned by old madam. If old madam was dissatisfied, she could just ask Do Changye to divorce her. If Do Changye dared to divorce her, she would spread the news about the Marquis's household. Anyway, her reputation was not important to her. System, yes, yes. Climax. Chapter 3184. Shameless people could go anywhere and defeat all their opponents. She thought of a certain someone. Wasn't it because of his shamelessness that he was able to get his wife? Old madam, calm down. It's not worth getting angry over such trivial matters. Since I've already married into the Duke's mansion, I can't force him to stay with me even if he's not satisfied with me. His legs are on the Crown Prince's body. Who can stop him wherever he goes? When Madame Chen heard this, she almost died of anger. She pointed at Tang Guo and didn't know what to say. Didn't they say that this family Tang girl was gentle like water? Sure enough, she was deceived and believed in slanderous words. She thought that she would marry a gentle and virtuous granddaughter-in-law, but she didn't expect her to be such a shrew. You're still talking back. Go and kneel outside. Madame Chen decided to teach Tang Guo a lesson since she couldn't win against Tang Guo. Old madam, you can't vent your anger on me just because His Highness doesn't enter my room and can't control him. If you're not satisfied with me, you can ask His Highness to divorce me. Kneel, I won't kneel. Tang Guo wasn't afraid at all. What was there to be afraid of? If this matter was blown out of proportion, it would affect the Duke's mansion's reputation. As for the family Tang, they probably didn't care much about her daughter. As the saying goes, a married daughter is like water that has been poured out. Back then, the original owner of the body had been living in poverty and had asked for help from the family Tang. However, her father only asked her to stay in the Duke's mansion and didn't say anything else. Do Changye sent the original owner of the body to the temple for meditation without any wrongdoing. No one from the family Tang objected, let alone support her. It was all because her mother had passed away early and the current madam of the Tang family was also a stepwife. How could he really plan a marriage for his first wife's daughter? Everyone said that Shitzi was very affectionate and that he was a good person. However, such an affectionate person would only treat the person he loved the most. No matter how envious others were, he wouldn't treat you that way. If you approached him, he would find you troublesome. Wasn't that what Do Changye did? After Tang Guo paid her respects, she said goodbye and turned around to leave. Rebel! Rebel! You're rebelling. Stop right there. Madam Chin was so angry that she stomped her feet and slapped the table. Hurry up and kneel outside, otherwise. I really didn't think that a family Tang girl would be so rude. Tang Gua stopped and turned around with a smile. Then, old madam, you can divorce me and spread the word that no one from the family Tang family can marry. I won't stop you. It's your freedom. Tang Gua's nonchalant attitude left old madam completely at a loss. She really couldn't divorce Tang Gua. She had finally married Tang Gua after much difficulty. She had already fallen out with Do Changya once. If she were to fall out with Do Changya again, her grandson might really leave her. Besides, she felt that Do Changya might not agree to divorce Tang Gua. Even if she agreed, with this marriage and divorce, the one who would become the laughingstock of the Marquis's estate. When the servants of the Marquis Fu saw Tang Gua's performance, they originally looked down on her. She was so arrogant that she put away her previous contempt. They didn't dare to provoke such a shrewish person. They looked at old madam who seemed to be at a loss. Lychee was stunned by Tang Gua's actions. She didn't seem like the young lady she was familiar with. Miss, is this really okay? You've offended old madam today. Now that you're in the Marquis's estate, it's easy for old madam to make things difficult for you. Peek. Chapter 3185. Lychee was extremely worried. Now that His Highness doesn't care about you and you've offended Madam Tang, how are you going to live your life in the future? I'll live my life as I should. You don't have to worry about these things. Tang Gua looked up and smiled. You must remember that you can do whatever you want in this mansion. If anyone makes things difficult for you, come and find me. I've finally left the Tang mansion. To think that I've tolerated it for so long. Lychee was stunned to hear her words. Miss, was your gentleness in the past all an act? Yes, it's all an act. Since Lychee was her personal maid, she had to get rid of Lychee's concerns first. Outsiders usually wouldn't hear about women in the boudoir. Hence, it didn't matter if she changed her temperament slightly or not in the Tang mansion. Even if the people in the Tang mansion found out about it in the future, they would only think that she had changed her temperament because she couldn't win His Highness' heart. As for what happened today, Madam Tang would definitely ask someone to keep it a secret and prevent the news from spreading. After all, Lin Mingya was the granddaughter-in-law that old Madam Tang had chosen herself. Previously, she kept saying that she was very satisfied with Lin Mingya. Now that she had given Lin Mingya a slap in the face, she and the Tang mansion would be embarrassed. However, Do Changya definitely knew about what happened in the mansion. Do Changya frowned when he heard about what happened to Tang Gua this morning. Didn't Madam Tang say that she's gentle and virtuous? Do Changya sounded a little sarcastic. He wasn't worried at all about Madam Tang being criticized. Old Madam Tang had been living a carefree life and had been obstructing him from getting married to Junhua. Later on, when Junhua passed away, she even stopped him from bringing Junhua's name into the mansion. A long time ago, he no longer had any feelings for old Madam Tang. He didn't do anything because of their relationship. In this era, filial piety was more important than anything. Besides, Junhua was already dead and he couldn't be bothered to argue with her. He decided to fulfill her wishes and marry someone she was satisfied with. However, he didn't expect old Madam Tang to shoot herself in the foot this time. Not only did Do Changya not intend to meddle in Tang Gua's affairs, but he also intended to turn a blind eye to it and let her kick up a fuss with old Madam Xing. Old Madam Xing had something to do and would not keep an eye on him all the time. If Do Changya had known what was going to happen next, he would have helped Madam Dowager to discipline the Tang family girl who was different from the rumors. Madam Dowager was so angry that she didn't eat breakfast or lunch. In the end, she couldn't take it anymore and sent a beautiful maid to Tang Gua. She said that the maid had been with her for a few years and that Do Changye was going to promote her now that he was married. What she did was purely to make things difficult for Tang Guo. However, Tang Guo did not care about Do Changye at all. She would be happy even if there were many concubines running around. What's his name? Tang Guo asked faintly. Her appearance frightened the little girl in front of her. Today, she had seen that Tang Guo was a shrew. Even the madam couldn't control her. Although she wanted to be the concubine of the crown prince, she was afraid of the madam of the crown prince. My name is Chiu Yu, the maid said timidly. She stole a glance at Tang Guo and hurriedly lowered her head, not daring to look at her directly. Good name, Chen Hua and Chiu Yu. Is there anyone else named Chen Hua? Yes, madam. Chen Hua is still serving old Madam Xing. Peek. Chapter 3186. Chiu Yu answered submissively. She did not think that the legendary Tang family girl was gentle and virtuous at all. She was so fierce that her legs almost turned to jelly with just one look. Why didn't old madam send all of you here? The crown prince's residence is too empty. It's better for Chen Hua and Chiu Yu to stay together. Tang Guo commented with a smile, which made Chiu Yu shiver in fear. She felt that the crown prince's wife's words were not very friendly. Was she mocking the old madam and, at the same time, threatening her as a concubine who had no choice but to be taken in? Lychee, reward her. Tang Guo waved her hand. Although the Tang family did not care about her, she still had some status. She had also brought the dowry left by her mother. Even the shops were there. Of course, the original owner of the body did not care much about these things. They were all hers now and had nothing to do with the Marquis family. She had money and it was not a problem to reward her with a concubine. System, look at how rich she is. I thought that she was going to take in a concubine herself. Chiu Yu held the heavy silver in her hand in disbelief. The crown prince's wife looked very fierce. Wasn't she threatening her? Why did she give her the silver without saying anything? Would she say that she stole the silver and chase her out later? Lychee, get someone to arrange a room for Chiu Yu. Go tell old madam that I'll take good care of sister Chiu Yu. Tang Guo smiled at Chiu Yu. Chiu Yu was still a little scared as she held the silver in her hand. She was not as scared as before. However, she did not dare to spend the silver for the time being. It was better to keep it. If the crown prince's wife remembered and regretted it, she would not know what to do. Old madam was relieved to know that Tang Guo had settled Chiu Yu down. She thought that Tang Guo would definitely mind Chiu Yu's existence. After all, which woman in the world could tolerate her husband taking in a concubine on the second day of their marriage? Moreover, Chiu Yu was her maid and she would definitely listen to her. When the time came, she would be able to quickly find out what was going on over there. When Chiu Yu passed by, she even reminded her that she had to attract Do Changye's attention and win his heart. Of course, Madam Chen didn't have much hope. Speaking of which, it was really Lu Junhua's fault. Even in death, she still wouldn't let her grandson off. It was also fortunate that she was dead. If she was still alive, who knows how her precious grandson would be implicated. Her Marquis's manner would definitely be unstable. Your Highness, Madame Lai has sent Chiu Yu to the back residence for the Crown Prince's wife to arrange. Oh. How did you do it? Do Changye asked curiously as he held on to his wine glass. Logically speaking, even if Tang Guo accepted Chiu Yu, she would probably be angered by Madame Lin's behavior. Do Changye was in a good mood now that there was someone at home who could spar with old Madame. If he had known that the family Tang girl was not gentle and virtuous, he would have agreed earlier. Even if he married her, she would only be his stepwife in name, and he would not touch her at all. Since Junhua was already dead, his heart was also dead. Besides, the family Tang girl could help him to avoid trouble from Madame Lin. Since Madame Lin had taken a liking to her, it would be easy to marry her, but difficult to send her away. I heard that Madame Lai happily arranged for Chiao Yu to be her concubine and even rewarded Chiao Yu with 2 taels of silver. Most of the time, they would only reward their servants with some taels of silver. Do Changyi was indeed surprised by what Tanghua had done. Peak. Chapter 3187. She's not upset. I heard that she's still smiling. She doesn't seem upset at all. Do Changye squinted. I don't think so. Women in the harem are the best at pretending. They'll pretend to be happy even if they're upset. Only a woman like Junhua wouldn't put on any pretense at all. The follower didn't dare to interrupt and simply listened to Do Changye. Okay, don't bother about this. As long as the crown prince's wife doesn't go overboard, don't bother about her. Let her compete with old Madame Tang. With Tanghua competing with old Madame Tang, he could finally have some peace and quiet. Tanghua had made arrangements for Chiao Yu and had lunch before entering the room to check on the situation in the group chat. When she entered the group chat, she realized that Shangwan Yungu was chatting with the people in the group chat. She flipped through the records and realized that Shangwan Yungu was probably waiting for her to appear. Campus bell, Yungu. Shangwan Yungu, Uncle Master, you're finally here. Why did you look for me last night? Margaret, I have a feeling that there's bad news waiting for me. It's a terrible feeling. Ziyun, Margaret, stop complaining all the time. The girl will come to you sooner or later. Since she's here, it's fate. I believe that you'll definitely meet her. Margaret, Ziyun, you've comforted me many times, but year after year, century after century, the campus bell still hasn't come to me. I still think that she must have offended the god of creation unintentionally. He must have closed the door to the magical world. Otherwise, the campus bell would have come to my world several times. Mo Yuntian, how can there be such a good thing? She's been with us for so many years. How many times has she met us? System, I'm really sorry, but it seems that Big Brother Wild has met Big Brother Host again. Hence, it's hard to say. Ziyun, okay, let's listen to what she has to say. She didn't tell us about the new world because it was too late last night. Now that everyone is here, let's listen to her. Margaret, since she didn't come to your world this time, you should look forward to the next time. Margaret almost burst into tears when she heard this. The people in the group were becoming more and more heartless. In the past, they were all very patient, attentive, and gentle. Now, they were insulting her and even laughing at her. This was simply not a place for humans to stay. Not only was the god of creation targeting her, but even her companions were also targeting her. Shangwan Yungu, Shishu, what do you want to say? School beauty, Yungu, I want to ask, how is your current situation? Shangwan Yungu, right now, I'm basically staying in the palace to cultivate. The new emperor is already able to take charge. Now, I'm just an idle prince. However, that brat often comes over and wants me to go out and do some work for him, but I directly drive him out. How could working every day compare to practicing martial arts? For the past 20 years, I have been worrying about the Eastern Shang nation. I've been working for my brother since I was 7 years old. When my brother passed away, I was only 20 years old, and I had to assist the new emperor who was only 10 years old. When I met you, I wasn't even 30 years old. Now that he was in his early 30s, he wanted to do something that he wanted to do. Actually, I've always liked to practice martial arts since I was young. I don't like power struggles, and I don't like going to war on the battlefield. Instead, I kind of like the way Jianghu does things, and live a carefree and unrestrained life. Vertex. Chapter 3188. Campus Belle, sounds like you're living a good life now. Oh yes, is the country you're in called Eastern Shang? Shangguan Yonggu, yes, I'm in Eastern Shang now. Tang Guo was sure that she had come to Shangguan Yonggu's world. The others in the group were silent. They were all too familiar with this situation. When Tang Guo asked them where they were and what their country was called, most likely she found the name of someone in the group in her memory. Margaret, sure enough, I'm the one who is targeted by the god of creation. Campus Belle, have you come to Shangguan Yonggu's world? It's not fair. Why did he meet you so soon when he was the last to come? I remember clearly that there was a girl named Wen Yue in the past. You even appeared in that girl's world directly. She only joined the group later. I really want to ask why the god of creation is so unfair to me. After complaining for a while, Margaret left the place to Tang Guo. Margaret, you guys can continue. I need some time alone. Campus Belle, Yonggu, is there a Marquis Do's mansion in your world? Marquis Do was paralyzed many years ago. The one in charge now is Prince Do Changye. Do Changye just got married yesterday to Minister Tang's eldest daughter. However, Do Changye did have a wife before, but the one he married was of a lower rank. When Tang Guo said this, Shangguan Yonggu, who was lying on a rattan chair in the courtyard and basking in the sun, almost jumped up. Because Tang Guo was right. He was not clear about the affairs of Marquis Do's mansion, especially the younger generation of Marquis Do's mansion. However, he had some impression of the paralyzed Marquis. After all, Marquis Do had become a cripple because he fought for Eastern Shang. The emperor would give him grace mainly because he had made contributions. After all, it was not easy for a marquis to inherit the title for 3 generations. When Marquis Do passed away, Prince Do Changye would be able to inherit the title directly. It was the supreme honor given by the emperor. However, how did Campus Belle know about it? Shangguan Yonggu, martial uncle, how do you know so much? Could it be he had already thought of it? After all, he often chatted in the group and could more or less hear some things. Tang Guo might appear in the world of the group members. For example, Margaret, who had been wailing just now, broke down because Uncle Master didn't go to her world. Campus Belle, if I'm not mistaken, should be in your world. Moreover, my current identity is the eldest daughter of Minister Tang's mansion, Tang Guo. Seeing this news, Shangguan Yonggu rolled down from the rattan chair. His face was full of shock. Prince, are you all right? Shangguan Yonggu crawled up from the ground, patted the dust off his body, and sat back down on the rattan chair. He waved his hand at the servant, nothing, you may leave. The servant observed for a moment and discovered that Shangguan Yonggu was indeed full of energy when he spoke. His complexion was also very rosy. It didn't seem like he was sick. Only then did he relax and slowly retreat to the side. But the prince's sudden fall still made him a little worried, so he waited on the side to observe the situation. Shangguan Yonggu was not in the mood to care about the servant's thoughts. His consciousness sank into the group again. Shangguan Yonggu, martial uncle, is it true? How did you go to Minister Tang's mansion? This is too dreamy. Peek. Chapter 3189. Although he wasn't familiar with Do Changye, he didn't think that other girls would be happy after marrying Do Changye. He didn't pay attention to the situation in the Marquis mansion and was preparing to send someone to check on the news later. However, he would go out for a walk every day. He had gone out this morning. It was said that Do Changye left his wife alone on the night of their wedding. He didn't care about Minister Tang's reputation at all. The new wife of the crown prince had become the joke of the entire city. Shengguan Yungu was naturally furious when he found out that she had become Tangguo. Shengguan Yungu, this Do Changye is really outrageous. Ziyun, ha ha ha, Yungu, don't worry. Since she has come to your world and has become the wife of the crown prince, she must have some grievances and needs to be resolved by her. Mo Yuntian, that's right, you don't have to worry about her being taken advantage of. However, there shouldn't be so much freedom in this era. You still have to take care of your uncle master so that he won't be bullied by others. Anyway, you're the one and only sage King Duan with supreme glory. It'll be easy for you to help the girl. Shengguan Yungu would do it even if others didn't say anything. Margaret, Shengguan Yungu, you're so lucky. Since the school belle has come to your world, you have to take good care of her. If you don't take good care of her, the creator of the world must be blind. Shengguan Yungu, who was cursed, felt a little helpless. He used to think that the people in the group were very friendly to him. However, he now realized that his uncle master was everyone's treasure. He quickly agreed to everyone's request and was thrilled that such a mysterious and powerful person like Tangguo had come to his world. In fact, he had a lot of doubts about cultivation. He didn't know if he would have the chance to ask his uncle master for advice. His uncle master was recognized by his master, and he even said that his uncle master was more powerful than everyone in the group. If he could get some advice from his uncle master, it would be useful for the rest of his life. If it wasn't because of his identity, he really wanted to bring Tangguo to the prince's mansion and ask her about cultivation. Mo Yuntian, sister, tell me what happened later. Since you mentioned Yungu, tell me honestly. Is he an unlucky guy in the plot? Shengguan Yungu, master, what do you mean by unlucky guy? Ziyun, the unlucky ones are the people in our group. Whenever we see the girl, she will see some things that happened when she wasn't around. Most of the people in our group. If they weren't killed, they would be struck to death by lightning. If not, they would be crippled, or become lovesick. Shengguan Yungu looked at these words and felt his hair stand on end. Shengguan Yungu, firstly, I don't go out, and secondly, I don't offend anyone. I shouldn't be too unlucky, right? Ziyun, then you're wrong. As long as you're in this group, you'll definitely be very unlucky. Super unlucky. The kind of unlucky that you can't even imagine. Mo Yuntian, brother Ziyun is right. That is indeed the case. Seeing everyone say this, Shengguan Yungu believed that these seniors would not deceive him. Margaret, I was hoping that I would be unlucky. You really don't know how lucky you are. Shengguan Yungu, martial uncle, how unlucky am I? Chapter 3190. Even so, Shengguan Yungu still felt that he would not be too unlucky. He had worked hard for the Eastern Shang nation for 20 years and it was time for him to enjoy his life. Since he was not involved in any fights now, no one should mess with him. Campus belle, Yungu, you are indeed a little unlucky. Shengguan Yungu's heart skipped a beat. Was he really that unlucky? Shengguan Yungu, is there any danger to your life? Campus belle, yes, in the memory that I received, you will die in the future. Shengguan Yungu, how will I die? Campus belle, you will be poisoned to death. Someone really wanted to kill him and poison him. Who would be so senseless? Campus belle, Do Changye sent someone to do it. Looking at these words, Shengguan Yungu still didn't dare to believe it. Speaking of which, this marquis mansion could be considered to be full of loyalty. How could they poison him and even poison him to death? Shengguan Yungu, why would he poison me for no reason? Shangguan Yungu was not angry, but puzzled. He couldn't understand why Do Changye would poison him. It didn't make sense at all. Campus Belle, you might not believe it even if I tell you, but he wants to poison you because of a woman. You should have heard of this woman. She is Lu Junhua. Shangguan Yungu was even more confused. Tang Guo explained the situation and the plot to Shangguan Yungu in detail. Shangguan Yungu was in disbelief when he saw the message sent by Tang Guo. Before he met this group, although he would not die in the cave and brought the item back with his willpower, he was almost crippled. Just like now, he was conferred the title of Sage King Duan. However, there was a big difference between a crippled person and him now. He was a little angry when he saw that Do Changye rebelled with his nephew for a woman and succeeded in forcing the new emperor to abdicate. Besides, Do Changye was afraid that something bad would happen to him, so he sent someone to poison him and killed him. He was indeed the unlucky guy that Master and Uncle Masters described. Tang Guo described the cause and effect, as well as every important character in the story. When Shangguan Yungu found out about the fate of Tang Guo's identity, his heart was filled with sorrow. For a woman, so many things happened in Eastern Shang. If he didn't believe that all this was true, he would have thought that Tang Guo was making up a story. Shangguan Yungu, then what does Martial Uncle plan to do next? Do you need my help? You don't have to worry about the Emperor. With Martial Uncle's warning, I won't let that woman affect him. The Emperor in the novel was slightly different from the current Emperor. Perhaps it was because he was very healthy this time and taught the Emperor more things. Now, the Emperor's position was even more stable. Even if Do Changye really wanted to rebel against the Emperor, he might not be able to win. Campus Belle, I don't need your help for the time being. I'm fine. I can handle everything at the moment. I'll come to you when I need you. Shangguan Yungu was still a little worried. Tang Guo was surrounded by maids and there weren't many people who could be used. However, since Tang Guo rejected him, he couldn't make a forceful arrangement in case Martial Uncle didn't like it. The Peak. Chapter 3191. He had no choice but to send people to keep an eye on the movements of the House of Marquis. Once Tang Guo encountered any difficulties, he could guarantee that he would act immediately. Just now, his master had said in the group that every time his martial uncle went to a new world, his martial arts were still very weak at the beginning and needed a certain amount of protection. Since his master had said so, he could not lower his guard. What if he really put his martial uncle in a dangerous situation? After explaining things and warning Shangguan Yungu to be careful of the male and female lead auras, Tang Guo left the group. As for whether the Emperor, Shangguan Qingchuan, would meet the female lead again under Shangguan Yungu's watch, she could not predict. After all, there were some things that could not be predicted. If he really fell in love with Lu Junhua, it would be useless to stop him. Shangguan Yungu also said goodbye to the people in the group. Changing his lazy attitude, he called his secret guards and asked them to investigate the House of Marquis. Then he entered the palace, planning to see the Emperor and teach the little Emperor what it meant to provoke a woman who should not be provoked. It was easy to ruin things. What kind of woman could not be liked? A woman who had a child and did not know who she was, he must not like her. Maybe she had a husband and had temporarily forgotten about him. This was the most important thing. He must give the little Emperor a good warning, so that he would not lose the throne because of a woman. The Emperor's woman had to be chosen from the children of the ministers. The outside world had an unknown origin, and no one knew what kind of problems would occur. Shangguan Qingchuan was completely unaware that Shangguan Yungu was going to give him a good lesson. On this side, Tang Guo also left the group. She took a nap first, then took Lychee out of the house of Marquis to take a look at the shops. Her shops were in good locations, all of which were left by her mother for her. It was not that Minister Tang's wife did not want to have this idea, but her mother was far-sighted and had already arranged for people to be in the shops. These people were brought by her mother's family. If Minister Tang's wife wanted to snatch the shops, it would definitely be unpleasant. She spent the whole afternoon walking around the shops and casually gave some pointers to the shopkeeper. Then, she went to the jewelry shop and bought a few beautiful pieces of jewelry for herself. During the whole process, she did not hide her identity, so countless people noticed her. Not long after Tang Guo returned to the house of Marquis, there were more rumors about her outside. Have you heard? The Shizi's wife actually came out to look after the shop on the second day of her wedding. After looking at the shop, she even went to buy jewelry. I know. Someone even saw with their own eyes that the heir's wife was full of smiles. She didn't look like she was being neglected by the heir. Could it be that the previous rumors were false? Were those people randomly spreading them? In reality, the heir's wife and the heir's wife are very loving. Impossible. My friend's distant cousin sister-in-law's younger sister's uncle is a servant of the Marquis' estate. All the servants of the Marquis' estate know that the heir had indeed left his wife alone in the bridal chamber on their wedding night and went to the study by himself. Not only that, I heard that His Highness went out early this morning. He didn't even accompany His Highness to greet Madame Lai. But if that's the case, why would the heir apparent's wife come out to buy jewelry so happily? I think it's because the princess is too pitiful. Maybe she's just putting on an act. After all, what happened before was too pitiful. Vertex. Chapter 3192. As for the jewelry she bought happily, isn't she just trying to tell us that she's happy and dispel the rumors? You're right. Maybe that's the case. When Lychee heard the discussions of the people in the Marquis' mansion, she was furious. She hurriedly went to Tanggua's side and whispered to her about the rumors outside, not forgetting to scold Do Changye harshly. Lychee, you don't have to tell me what people say in the future. No matter what I do, people will gossip about it. Since that's the case, I'd better do what I want. The original owner of the body was too obedient and did not know how to resist. This was the biggest characteristic of women in this era, which was to resign themselves to adversity. She followed the 3 rules of obedience and did not think for herself at all. That was how she ended up. When she was asked to stay in the mansion, she did so. When she was asked to cultivate in the temple, she did so. If she resisted a little, even if she could not change the overall situation, she could at least fight for herself. Now that she was here, the first thing she had to do was to break everything and instill an impression in people that she was a shrew who could not be bullied by anyone. Whoever wanted to bully her had to open their eyes wide and see how much weight they were in. She would stay in the mansion for the time being and torture the unreasonable old lady. She did not blame her grandson, but blamed the weak old lady. When the male lead Do Changye and the female lead Lu Junhua met again, she would make Do Changye suffer. When Madame Dowager heard about Tanggua's carefree life, she could not stand it. Now, he invited Tanggua and Qiuyu to go over together. Qiuyu walked out submissively and followed Tanggua fearfully. She did not understand why Madame Dowager would invite the wife of the crown prince, but she did not know why she would be invited. She was really afraid if she made a mistake later. She was not a person who liked to compete. Although it was a happy thing to be the concubine of the heir, she was really a little afraid of the wife of the heir. Tanggua looked at Qiuyu's pale and trembling face and smiled gently. Don't be nervous. You are now the crown prince's concubine. Don't be like before when you were a servant. Raise your head appropriately. Yes. Chiao Yu listened and changed her mind slightly. When she saw the old madam, Tangua asked with a smile, "Did you sleep well today, old madam?" "Chiao Yu, come here and let me see you." I haven't seen you for half a day and I've missed you so much." Madam Dowager didn't seem to hear Tangua's words. She only looked at Chiao Yu. "Come here, Chiao Yu. Let me take a look. I haven't seen you for half a day. You look thinner." Chiao Yu shivered. She had a feeling that old madam was trying to gain hatred for her. She was just a lowly concubine. She really didn't dare to provoke the heir's wife. "Madam Dowager, don't you remember how fierce the heir's wife was in the morning?" Chiao Yu was most likely frightened by someone. Or maybe she didn't eat lunch. That's why her face is so pale. Chen Hua, who was standing beside Madam Dowager, first looked at Tangua and then said sourly, "Maybe Chiao Yu is not sensible and is not liked by the heir's wife. That's why she didn't eat lunch." Chiao Yu quickly said, "It's not like that, old madam. This afternoon, this concubine's meal was very sumptuous. There was fish, meat, and a good combination of meat and vegetables. There was also a soup." The Peak. Chapter 3193. Madam of the Crown Prince really treated her well when it came to food. Initially, she was trembling with fear as she thought that Madam of the Crown Prince was going to poison her, an arrogant concubine. She had been waiting for the poison to take effect, but to her surprise, she was still fine. Hence, Madam of the Crown Prince really did not poison her and was not as petty as she thought. Old Madam Dowager really misunderstood Madam of the Crown Prince too much. It could be said that the lunch she had today was the most delicious meal she had ever eaten since she arrived at the mansion. When Chiao Yu mentioned these, she could not help but look at Tangguo with gratitude. Old Madam Dowager did not seem to understand what Chiao Yu meant. She held Chiao Yu's hand and said that she could not bear to part with her. She even gave Chiao Yu a bracelet. When Chiao Yu saw that the bracelet was actually worn by old Madam Dowager, she was frightened and hurriedly rejected it. "You can't reject a gift from an elder. Take it. You've been serving me since you entered the mansion. Now that your status is different, you should have one or two good things with you. However, although your status is different, you're still living in the same mansion. Come and visit me often so that I won't miss you all the time." Yes, old Madam Dowager. I'll come and greet you every day. I'll never forget your kindness for the rest of my life. Chiao Yu was actually afraid. In fact, although she was old Madam Dowager's maid, she was not as favored as the others who were good at talking. Especially Chen Hua, who was the apple of old Madam Dowager's eye. She also knew a secret that Chen Hua had always wanted to stay by the Crown Prince's side to serve him. However, old Madam Dowager probably could not bear to part with Chen Hua. After all, Chen Hua was good at talking, meticulous, smart, capable, and funny. With Chen Hua around, old Madam Dowager was very happy every day. Tang family. Old Madam Dowager thought that Tangguo would be embarrassed by the fact that she had humiliated Tangguo in public. After all, she had favored a concubine more than a newlywed granddaughter-in-law in front of so many people. Wouldn't that embarrass Tangguo and make her a laughingstock? It was especially so this morning because Do Changya had gone out early in the morning and refused to serve her tea. Hence, she did not give Tangguo any face, let alone give her a gift. Now, he had bestowed Chiao Yu with the jade bracelet that she had worn for many years. Anyone would be unable to sit still, right? In the Marquis's estate, she was the most powerful. Wouldn't it be difficult for someone she didn't like to survive here? However, when Madame Dowager called out to Tangguo, she subconsciously raised her head to look at Tangua's possibly very unsightly face. Unexpectedly, Tangua actually responded to her with a smile. "Madam Dowager, do you have any orders?" "If it's a small matter and I can do it, old madam, please let me know. If it's something big and I can't do it or it's very difficult, I might not be able to help old madam." "System, ha 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 ha, naughty." When the old madam heard this, she was so angry that her mouth almost went crooked. She had lived for almost a lifetime, but this was the first time she had seen such a shameless person. She was the elder of the Tang family. Since she had ordered her to do something, she should have done it obediently. Yet, what did she say? If she couldn't do it, she wouldn't do it. This matter was outrageous. However, she could not get angry. Since Chunhua was smiling, if she were to get angry and scold her directly, she would be at a disadvantage. Peak. Chapter 3194. As long as this old woman could live long enough, she wouldn't have to worry about not having enough time to turn Tangkor around. One day, she would make Tangkor obedient in front of her. If she told her to go east, Tangkor wouldn't dare to go west. System, this old woman loves to daydream. The old madam suddenly felt that something wasn't right. She looked up and realized that Tangguo was sitting down. She wasn't going to let Tangguo sit down. She had just left her to the side because she wanted to teach her a lesson. She wanted her to understand that this wasn't Minister Tang's residence, but the Marquis household. The minister's household had its own rules, and the Marquis household had its own rules. Tangkor. The old madam shouted in a deep voice. She glared at Tangguo unhappily. Seeing that she was still smiling, she almost fainted from anger. She couldn't get angry. She had to endure it. She couldn't get angry. It was all Tangkor's daughter's fault for not having a good upbringing. It wasn't worth it for her to get angry. It wasn't worth it for her to ruin her health just to make the other party happy. She definitely couldn't faint from anger in front of a grandchild. Otherwise, she would become the biggest joke in the capital before tomorrow. "Old madam, you don't have to call me again and again. I'm young and can hear you. If you have anything to say, just say it." "I can hear you." Tangguo was still smiling. Her attitude was very good. The old madam took a deep breath and scolded, "Why did you sit down on your own?" In other words, without her permission, how could Tangkor sit down so casually? She was simply not taking her seriously. "Old madam, standing is tiring." "System, what the hell?" "Dear host, is this even possible?" Chiao Yu, who was listening from the side, kept her head down. She didn't dare to look at Tangguo or the old madam. But when she heard Tangguo's words, her face was full of shock. She subconsciously lifted her head to look at Tangguo. She saw that she was sitting calmly in her seat. Even though the old madam was scolding her, she had no intention of standing up. She even had a smile on her face. It was obvious that she was not intimidated by the old madam's power. Sure enough, she was right. A person who could be so fierce in the morning was definitely not a simple person. Old madam had promoted her to be the heir's concubine and wanted her to capture the heir's heart. However, she had to have the guts to do so. Given the current situation, it was better for her to stay in her own place and behave obediently in front of the heir apparent's wife. She should not let her imagination run wild. How could a mere concubine like her afford to offend someone who wasn't afraid of the old madam? Old Madam Chen was about to faint from anger. She never thought that Tangguo would directly say that she was tired from standing. She really dared to say it. "Your Highness, this is the minister's manner. Do you still know the rules when you talk back to the old madam?" Chunhua couldn't stand it anymore. Recently, she had not been doing well at all. She had originally thought that when the old madam wanted to promote someone to be the heir's concubine, she would be the first to be chosen. After all, among the young maidservants, she had been by old madam's side for the longest time. She was also the most active in serving old madam. When old madam was unhappy, she would think of all kinds of ways to make her happy. She didn't expect that when old madam promoted the last person, it would be Chiou, who always did things by the book and had a dull personality. She didn't understand. How could she not be compared to Chiou, who had the least experience? Especially when she saw that the old madam actually took off the bracelet that she had always been wearing and gave it to Chiou. She was so jealous that she went crazy. As for Tanggua, the heir apparent's wife, she hated her even more. The Peak. Chapter 3195. Old Madam, please calm down. The Shitsi's wife might not be familiar with the rules of the Marquis residence. I think that it's enough to let the Shitsi's wife copy the family rules. Today is the second day of the wedding. It won't look good if things get out of hand. Old Madam's anger subsided a little. Just as she was about to open her mouth to agree with Chunhua, Tanggua opened her mouth again and interrupted her words. How dare you? When I'm talking to the old madam, when did a little girl like you get the chance to speak? Tanggua stopped smiling and stared at Chunhua with a sharp gaze. Even though Chunhua had always been pampered and was not afraid of anything, when she looked at Tanggua's gaze, she couldn't help but take a step back. This made her feel extremely vexed. Chunhua, the old madam usually pampers you and indulges you. Do you not know the immensity of heaven and earth? Not to mention the matter of going against me, the Shitsi's wife, you actually dared to interfere with the old madam's decision. If I didn't know that the old madam was healthy and couldn't be controlled by you, I would have thought that you had already controlled the old madam and could use the old madam's mouth to do whatever you want. System, fuck. Is this even possible? Chiou was so scared that her face turned pale and her whole body trembled. Luckily, she didn't listen to Chunhua and teach this Shitsi's wife a lesson. Such a fierce Shitsi's wife, there was no need to say who would teach her a lesson. The old madam pampers the people around her because she likes it. Originally, I shouldn't say anything. It is the old madam's freedom to pamper whomever she wants. However, a servant girl doesn't know her place because of the old madam's pampering. I'm worried that she will use the old madam's name to ruin the old madam's, the Shitsi's, and even the entire Marquis residence's reputation. Tanggua said slowly. Chunhua's originally rude and unreasonable attitude completely disappeared when she saw the old madam fall into silence. Old madam, it's all the servant's fault for not knowing the immensity of heaven and earth. Just now, I was only thinking of the old madam, that's why. The old madam ignored Chunhua. This stupid servant girl made her lose face in front of Tang. Wasn't Tang mocking her? She couldn't even teach the people around her well, yet she still wanted to control her. This Tang was really sharp-tongued. She swore that one day, she would break every bone in Tang's body. I'm tired, all of you can leave. Madame Dowager, who was mentally and physically exhausted, did not want to talk to Tanggua at all. Tanggua smiled and said, "Have a good rest, madam. I'll come to pay my respects to you tomorrow." Yes. Old madam nodded perfunctorily. She didn't come to greet her just to anger her to death, did she? She regretted it. She regretted listening to slander and believing that the eldest daughter of the minister's manor was a gentle and virtuous person. She didn't know who it was that made things difficult for her Marquis' estate, forcing this shrew to come to the Marquis' estate. She needed to calm down and think about how to deal with him next. Tanggua took Chiou back to the courtyard. When they were back, Chiao Yu asked carefully, "Your Highness, the old madam just rewarded me with a bracelet. Please take care of it. Since the old madam gave it to you, it's yours. Keep it for yourself." Tang Guo smiled faintly. "In the future, listen to the old madam's words. If she gives you something, just take it. Don't worry about anything." Chiao Yu quickly nodded and looked very obedient. Yes. However, she did not intend to listen to these words. If she had nothing to do, it was best not to go out. It was best to stay in the house and embroider. The Peak. Chapter 3196. She didn't want to be seen by the Shiitzi's wife, who would suddenly think that she wasn't a good person and think of ways to torture her. That wouldn't be good. Now that she had the status of a concubine, she could only be a little concubine with peace of mind. She did not think about anything else. As an unfavored concubine, at least she could eat her fill. She didn't have to go out and run around, and she didn't have to casually arrange a servant to marry her. Speaking of which, it wasn't that bad. He didn't even have to do so much work every day. Chiao Yu, who understood her situation, looked much calmer. She obediently responded to Tang Guo. She originally planned to stay by Tang Guo's side to serve her. But later, Tang Guo said that she didn't need to, so she obediently went back. Of course, Do Changye was aware of what had happened in the Marquis's mansion. It seems that she really has some skills. Previously, I was afraid that she wouldn't be able to deal with the old madam. I didn't expect that she would give me a surprise. All right. There's no need to keep an eye on the Marquis's estate. Let her compete with old madam. Do Changye was in high spirits. Now that there was finally someone who could make things difficult for old madam, he was overjoyed. In the evening, Do Changye returned to the mansion for dinner. The matriarch had sent people to keep an eye on the entrance of the manor. When she saw that he had returned, she immediately sent someone to invite him in. Do Changye did not refuse and followed Chun Hua to old madam's courtyard. She heard that old madam and that Shitzi Fui's wife ate their own meals. Shitzi Fui's wife seemed to have a lot of money and wasn't restricted by old madam at all. That was even better. She had plenty of money and wouldn't be easily controlled by the old madam. "Old madam, it's already so late. Haven't you had your meal yet?" Do Changye asked smilingly. He seemed to be in a good mood, which infuriated old madam. Each and every one of her family members really wanted her old life. "You went out early in the morning. Did you forget that today is the second day of your wedding? You should have a new daughter-in-law come to pay her respects." Old madam said bluntly, "You went out for the whole day. What did you do? Do you know what happened today? There are some urgent matters that I have to attend to." Do Changye sat down, completely unafraid of being questioned by Madame Dowager. "Is there anything interesting in the residence today? By the way, how does old madam feel about the new wife of the crown prince? She was personally chosen by old madam for your grandson. She should be a good choice." When the old madam heard this, she was at a loss for words. She could tell that Do Changye must have known about what had happened in the residence and hence, deliberately said those words to trick her. He said that because he was very dissatisfied with her forcing him to get married and making the decision to let him get married on her own. It was most likely Lu Junhua's death. Her grandson could still be blamed on her. He was really pissed off. This was her biological grandson. No matter how much trouble he caused, he was still her biological grandson. Seeing that their relationship was so bad, old madam did not mention Tang Guo again. She couldn't let the conflict between her biological grandson continue. She had to straighten out that shrewish woman. "You've been busy all day. Let's eat. Do Changye was satisfied with Madame Dowager's answer and began eating. This old madam probably didn't expect that she would marry a shrew back to Tiandu. This time, he had really done something that made him feel a little happy. After the meal, old madam recalled what happened to Chiu Yu and told Do Changye about it. Chiu Yu is one of my people. Treat her well and don't mistreat her. Vertex. Chapter 3197. Old madam sighed and continued, if it weren't for her low status, she could have been a concubine. All right, old madam. Do Changye agreed. However, he headed straight to his study room after leaving old madam's courtyard. He had no intention of going to Tangua's courtyard at all. It would be foolish of him to take old madam's words seriously. Did he go? Old madam asked Chen Hua, who had just returned after hearing the news. Chen Hua hid the joy on her face and answered softly, Old madam, His Highness has returned to his study room. His Highness didn't even like his wife, let alone someone like Chiu Yu. Don't think that you can gain his favor just because you're his concubine. His Highness was the one who truly liked his wife who had passed away. No one else could replace that. The next morning, Do Changye went out again without informing anyone. Tangua brought Chiu Yu to greet him while old madam continued to put on an act and pretended to dote on Chiu Yu. She even reminded Chiu Yu, you have to be obedient and make His Highness like you so that you can have children soon. When you have children, I'll promote you to a higher status. Yes, I understand. Chiu Yu knew that she would do her best and listen to old madam. What else could she say? She felt that it was really tough for her to live every morning. You have to be more proactive in order for His Highness to like you. When His Highness is back, you have to take care of him. Cook some tonics for him and make him remember you. Old madam completely ignored Tangua and gave Chiu Yu advice because she wanted to see if Tangua was really not angry. She even gave Chiu Yu a lot of personal items. In the end, she realized that Tangua did not mind at all and would come to greet her on time every day. However, it was impossible for her to take advantage of Tangua in terms of actions and words. Old madam was at her wit's end. The main reason was that Chiu Yu obediently said that she understood every day. Later on, she did as she said. However, Do Changye had never entered Chiu Yu's room. Fortunately, Do Changye had never visited Tangua. Hence, old madam felt a little comforted. This Chiu Yu is really useless. The old madam sat in the courtyard and sighed. She has been promoted for a month, but Changye didn't even give her a face. Really, all my efforts were wasted. I wanted to give her a wide path, but in the end, she's just a piece of mud that can't be supported. In the past month, she had been fighting with Tangua every day. She was mentally and physically exhausted. She especially wanted to have a concubine who could overshadow Tangua's limelight. It would be best if she could win the heir's favor. Even just a little, then Tangua would be a joke. Chiu Yu has a dull personality and is usually not good with words. How could she possibly be liked by the crown prince? Chen Hua said softly, I've heard that Chiu Yu went to see Master Shitzi according to old madam's instructions and delivered soup to him. Shitzi said he didn't want to drink it and took it away. She really took it away. Old madam was wrong about her. You're right. I made a mistake in choosing Autumn Moon. The old madam was reflecting deeply. Now that the heir has been married for a month, it's time to take in a few more concubines. Chen Hua was happy to hear that. I've already asked someone to take a look. Accompany me to choose later. Upon hearing that, Chen Hua's heart turned cold. If she did not try her best to hide it, she would not have been able to keep a straight face. Peak. Chapter 3198. Obviously, her age is suitable. She's so old that she's always in front of old madam and would rather look for her outside. Why can't I see her? Shengguan Yungu, Martial Uncle, I heard the recent movements in the house of Marquis. How are you? School beauty, my days are pretty good. Don't worry, no one can bully me. Shengguan Yungu, indeed, no one can bully Martial Uncle. The news says that Martial Uncle has tormented old madam of the house of Marquis and almost angered her to death. He, Tanghua, is really not in any danger and he can't help. He can only order people to keep an eye on that place. In addition, he knows that there are a few shops under Tanghua's name. He ordered people to take care of them to prevent people from causing trouble. During this period, there were indeed people who caused trouble for the shops. They were all solved by Shengguan Yungu's people. And the people who caused trouble for the shops were ordered by old madam of the house of Marquis. Shengguan Yungu is a bit sarcastic. This old madam is quite sinister. She wants to scheme against his martial uncle. Recently, in addition to paying attention to the house of Marquis, he also enters the palace every day to tell the little emperor some things so that if he accidentally meets Lu Junhua, he won't be infatuated with her like in the plot and lose the throne in the end. The little emperor Shengguan Qingchuan feels that his imperial uncle is super strange recently. He tells him every day that an emperor should keep a clear mind even if he has a girl he likes in the future. He must not lose his mind because of feelings and lose his prestige as an emperor. He also says that no matter how good the girl is, if she has a son or a daughter, it's best not to provoke her. Especially for some girls of unknown origin, he should not have the mentality of seeking novelty, lest something bad happens. For this reason, he also collects countless books of unofficial history. They are all about the stories of the extraordinary girls of different dynasties. Shengguan Yungu thinks that by letting the little emperor see more of the extraordinary girls of different dynasties and gain more knowledge, he won't be infatuated with a mere Lu Junhua. The little emperor Shengguan Qingchuan thinks that it must be because the number of concubines in his harem has increased. This makes his imperial uncle worry that he won't do his job properly because of a girl. That's why he goes to the palace every day to warn him. One had to know that back then, he had gone to ask his imperial uncle to stay every day. He had hugged his imperial uncle's thigh and asked his imperial uncle to do things for him, but his imperial uncle had coldly and mercilessly flung him away. He even said that he had worked hard for Eastern Shang for more than 20 years and wanted to take a good rest. He also asked him to be more filial and not to enslave him. Now that imperial uncle had gone to the trouble of entering the palace, he must have heard some rumors. Did he think that he would go astray? For this reason, after Shengguan Yungu left the palace, the little emperor also investigated the entire palace to see who was gossiping. Someone must have said that he was obsessed with women and tried to sow discord on imperial uncle's side. Let him find them and teach them a lesson. However, after searching for a month, they still couldn't find this person. However, he did discover a lot of shady affairs in the palace. It was the unhappy little emperor who used thunderous methods to deal with a group of people. For a time, the harem was very peaceful. It was unknown whether it was because Shengguan Yungu had shown the little emperor those unofficial histories of extraordinary women, as well as some secret court histories, that the little emperor couldn't help but ponder as he looked at those smiling concubines. Was the other side of these concubines' smiles still like this? Vertex. Chapter 3199. The concubine in front of him had a beautiful smile. Her eyes were curved and her lips were curved. Her skin was fair, and she looked especially gentle. When he turned around, would he reveal his ferocious side, the kind that would devour people? However, the little emperor was a person who could adapt well and did not have any trauma. However, after paying more attention to the situation in the harem, he did not seem to yearn for the so-called scholars and beauties as much as before. Shangguan Yungu saw that it was about time and decided to bring the little emperor out of the palace for a walk. Shangguan Yungu, martial uncle, I've already brought Qingchuan out of the palace. Why don't we meet at your jade shop? How about that? He thought that he would not have the chance to meet the people in the group. After all, they were in different worlds. Even Mo Yuntian, his master, might not be able to meet them in this lifetime. Tang Guo's arrival was a huge surprise for him. Campus bell, okay, I will go out in a while. Shangguan Yungu, see you then. I am really excited to be able to meet Uncle Master. Mo Yuntian, speaking of which, your luck is really good. I am a little envious. Margaret, I am so envious. I am more envious than being recognized by the creator of the universe. If I can meet the campus belle, I will never scold the creator of the universe again. After leaving the group, Tang Guo freshened up and was about to go out when she saw Chun Hua walking in with two ladies. Chun Hua was originally arrogant. However, when she saw Tang Guo, she subconsciously restrained her arrogance and bowed to Tang Guo. Greetings, madam. What's the matter? Tang Guo had already guessed that Madame Dowager probably felt that Qiu Yu was useless and could not gain Do Changye's favor. Therefore, she wanted to find more concubines for Do Changye. Now that she, the wife of the heir, was here, she only needed to agree to take in concubines and raise them in this courtyard. If there were more concubines, Do Changye might really take a fancy to one of them one day. As long as Do Changye treated one of the concubines slightly better, it would be a slap to Tang Guo's face. Old Madame Gu decided that she would find more girls to marry into Do Changye's harem. Even if Do Changye didn't like her, she could still annoy Tang Guo. As the wife of an heir, it was probably unbearable for anyone to be surrounded by a group of eyesore concubines every day. This was what the old madam thought. After all, when she was young, her mother-in-law would always find excuses to send concubines to her so that she could raise her status. At that time, she was very resistant. Replying to Shitzi Furen, old madam thinks that Shitzi Furen's backyard is too cold and cheerless. It is said that ever since Shitzi Furen entered the residence, she has not let Shitzi Furen stay in the room even once. Therefore, the old madam asked me to bring them here, hoping that the heir presumptive's wife could make some arrangements. The Shitzi's wife is too weak to keep the Shitzi in the room. The old madam sent them to help you. Chun Hua thought that after saying these words, Tang Guo would be so angry that she would stomp her feet. She didn't make up these words, but old madam said it herself. It was obvious how much the old madam detested this new wife of the crown prince. If not for the fact that she thought of Tang Guo's shrewdness, she would have mocked her. However, the old madam asked her to behave herself in front of Qiu Yu, lest she offended her and made things difficult for the old madam. The Peak. Chapter 3200. At the thought of this, she felt uncomfortable again. Even old madam had to avoid this shrewish woman. If any of the concubines in the backyard were to get pregnant, this crown prince would be a huge joke. Let's see if he could still be so miraculous by then. So it's old madam who arranged for people to help me take care of the crown prince, Tang Guo said smilingly. All right, you can leave them here. I'll settle them down properly. Go back and tell old madam that I'll treat these concubines fairly. However, you'll have to tell old madam about the expenses. Forget it, I'll ask the butler when I'm back. Chun Hua was in a daze as she was pushed out of the courtyard with a piece of silver that Tang Guo had given her. Only then did she realize that Tang Guo did not seem to be unhappy. As old madam had been dealing with Tangguo seriously recently, she naturally did not bother about Do Changye's entanglement. When Do Changye found out that Tangguo was capable of being calculative with old madam, he did not send anyone to keep an eye on the duke's mansion. Hence, he did not know that he had accidentally gained 2 more concubines. "What are your names?" Tangguo asked with a smile. Her smile scared the 2 concubines in front of her. They thought that their appearance had angered the crown prince's wife and their legs could not help but tremble. "I'm Zhang Yuanxiang." "I'm Li Donger." "Greetings, crown prince's wife." The 2 concubines bowed to Tangguo politely. They were afraid. They were bought by old madam and did not have any status at all. They thought that they would enter the duke's mansion as maids, but they did not expect that they would be concubines of the crown prince. Although they had heard about the crown prince's infatuation, they had been living in a poor family since young. They did not dare to imagine the so-called loyal and fierce love. Moreover, with their status, they were sold to the duke's mansion by their parents. How would they dare to ask for such extravagant things? It was good enough that they were able to survive in this mansion carefully. If the crown prince doted on them, it would be their fortune. If the crown prince did not like them, they only hoped that they would have a meal and would not be sold again. Their parents had originally planned to sell them to brothels. Later on, they heard that the old madam of the marquis's estate was looking for candidates, so they were sent over. Because of her good looks, she was chosen. Lychee, reward. After spending more than a month together, Lychee had already become numb. When Tangguo said that she would reward them, she immediately gave them 2 tails each, the same as what Qiu Yu had done previously. Qiu Yu watched from the side and found that Tangguo did not make things difficult for the 2 new concubines. She decided that after Tangguo left, she would have a good talk with the 2 new concubines about what to do in the marquis's household. In short, no matter what, he could not afford to offend the princess. To be honest, other than being nagged by old madam every morning for the past month, her life had been very comfortable. The Shizi's wife would not scold her, nor would she find an excuse to torment her. She would also not ask her to serve her personally. She was provided with 3 meals a day. In the past month, she had gained some weight and her skin had become much fairer. When the Shizi's wife left, she would occasionally bring back some small things from the store to reward her. If she was not the crown prince's concubine, based on the way they interacted now, she would feel that she was not the crown prince's concubine, but the princess's concubine. When this thought popped up, Qiu Yu was shocked. She hurriedly threw away the messy thoughts in her mind. The peak that you're tuning into the LoveLore Library YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.